Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 485. I am so excited for today's guest. We have back on the show with us Tim James, of no relation, but honestly, I feel like we were twins separated at birth and tragically separated at birth. We both are incredibly passionate about holistic health and healing and so many other topics that are affecting all of our lives. And honestly, it's like, Tim, if I was a guy, I'd be you. I really feel like if you were a lady, you'd be me. It's just so funny how we both have fantastic health podcasts. We're both incredibly passionate about spreading this information. We both have the same last name, which is really funny. I feel like we should start a podcast together, which might be a little confusing. The Tim and Ashley James show of no relation. And it's so great having you back on the show. I loved our interview, episode 442, where you shared how you overcome some major health obstacles and went on to have helped now thousands and thousands of people to recover their health. Even very difficult to heal issues, things where doctors have said you'll always have this problem. You always need to be on these drugs, or you'll definitely never recover from this because XYZ, it's genetic, or this is just how it is, or this is just because you're aging. And yet when people listen to you and do what you say, they heal in ways that no doctor would ever expect. So I'm so excited to have you back on the show. Welcome.
Ashley, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm happy to be back on. And I just want to be really clear about one thing is like, I don't heal anybody. That's very important. So it's like I healed myself. That's the only person that I've healed. And what I try to just show people is like my journey, what I did, and like, changing their environment and reducing stress and cleaning up the body and getting the chemicals and toxins out and flooding the body with nature, which we are nature, and allowing the body's immune system and its natural responses to just take over. And, and I'm kind of really good at getting people, I guess, motivated or inspired now to put their health as a priority, because it's just, a lot of people are struggling out there with their health today,
And Tim, that is such a clear distinction, because we are our own healer. Our bodies know how to heal. We just really need to get out of our way. We need to stop putting stuff in our body that's hurtful, give our body the nutrients it really needs, change up some make some lifestyle changes that are really simple but really powerful, and boom, the body starts healing itself. So that's a really clear distinction. No one does healing to you, and we have to put the power back into the listener's hands, because it's their body that's going to do the healing, and we're here to guide them, give them new information. Perfect. It's really, really well said. Tim, since having you on the show, you have formulated some amazing products, and I love your you have a drink. We talked about it in episode 442. And listeners, if they want to go get it, they can go to learntruehealth.com/green85 and check it out. It's delicious. In fact, I have a glass of it right now. I'm drinking it currently. It's so good. It's so delicious. And it also just like gives me a buzzing energy in the morning. I feel like the oxygen is just penetrating into my cells at a better rate when I drink it. I can really feel it. So I'm drinking your juice right now, and you have this amazing healing story, which we talked about. So definitely want to go back and listen to episode 442. But since then, you've made some amazing discoveries, and I'm really surprised that other companies, because you're a one-man show, right? You're not this giant company, which I really like, because you're all about the quality of the product. You design your products for you first, and you take your products daily for you first, and then you're helping others at the same time. But you figured something out, that these big companies that are just really looking to make a profit, and they kind of get the lowest quality stuff and throw things on the shelf, that in some cases they'll say, for example, there's a certain amount of vitamin C in this, and then when tested, it shows there's absolutely no vitamin C in this, right? Because it's buyer beware. We don't know what's out there on the supplement shelves. We don't really know if there's ginkgo biloba in those ginkgo biloba capsules or vitamin C in those vitamin C capsules, because they can say whatever they want and then just put filler in because it's not a regulated industry. Whereas I know, working with you, everything that you do is incredibly high quality. So you've figured something out, and I'm really excited to talk about it today, because when you first told me about it and my husband and I tried it, it was, I know that it's so cliche to say life-changing, but I want you to talk.
Well,
some
of this stuff actually is, because we're just so detached from nature. But let me backpedal just for a little bit. Number one, just the size of our company. It started with me. I have a full-time assistant. I have a full-time web and designer type person. I've got coaches that work underneath me now. We have Dr. Scott Treadway, who is our formulator, and
Nice.
he is the bedrock foundation for the formulations. And I just want to be clear on this, because this was a gentleman who was groomed to go to medical school. His whole family expected him to go, so he did. He went to Cornell University, and as a young man in his 20s, he walked away and said, "This is not medicine." And that for somebody to do that at that age is just mind-boggling, to have that, awareness. And then he went into naturopathic school, and he said, "This isn't even good enough." And he walked out of that too. Now, I'm not here to bash naturopaths, because I have a lot of them that I work with. All over the United States, with clients that I partner with, because we're kind of like, I look at myself like a general contractor of health. I just kind of help people organize their team, especially if they're dealing with, stage 4 of this or that, or they got fibromyalgia, they got something, seriously, bad arthritis or whatever, gout, and they're trying to fix themselves up. You got to get a good team around you. And I'm really good at putting teams together for people in their local areas, right? So Dr. Treadway gets on a plane and he flies to India. And this is really cool. He actually meets one of the foremost healers in India, big name, everything. The guy had herbal shops all over, so the family was pretty wealthy. He was asked to speak at the scientific, at universities and stuff all the time on the immune system and health. And you have to understand that the Ayurvedic traditions over in India of medicine, and in the northern area, so it's all Ayurvedic. But in the northern hemisphere, it's Ayurveda, and then the southern hemisphere, it's called Siddhar healers. So there's two different factions of them, but they're doing similar stuff. All of Ayurvedic traditional medicine is steeped in system science, biological system science. So they have literally taken an engineering systems approach to health and wellness. And what does that mean, right? So for the layperson like me, if somebody had said that a long time, 12 years ago, I'd been like, what are you talking about? I've been watching Peanuts, and and the teacher's like, wah, 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 doing that deal. So what this means is what do engineers do in other capacities? Well, engineers build planes, and they kind of have to be perfect on that, right? Otherwise the wing falls off and we crash and people die. Engineers build bridges, and they have to be perfect, and they do trusses for buildings. So they have to have stronger snow capacity in areas where there's more snow. Otherwise, in the middle of the winter, your house could crush you and kill your kids, right? So engineers literally can't make mistakes, and yet sometimes through society they are. There's actually a really interesting story, Ashley. There's a guy named Alan McDonald. Now, I don't know if you remember the Space Shuttle Challenger. You remember that when it launched and blew up and killed those people? That they were rushed. They were rushed because what happened was they launched on a very cold day in the winter, and Alan McDonald and one other, and he was the head. I think he was one of the head engineers on the program. In the launch, he said, "We cannot launch. We have not tested this one little O-ring in those cold conditions. We do not know how it's going to perform. So until we do," he goes, "I cannot sign off on this." Another engineer wouldn't sign off on it either. Okay. But the rest of the engineers signed off on it, probably because they just wanted a paycheck and they were under pressure, right? And they went ahead and launched, and guess what? That O-ring failed, and those people died. And millions of dollars, but forget it, people died, right? So my point is that from an engineering standpoint, this is the one profession where you can't hide from your efforts. You see what I'm saying? There's no gray area. There's no like, oh, maybe next time. It's like, it's from an engineering standpoint, they can't make mistakes. Like electrical engineers, like think about it. Oh, well, just put the wire over there and then the house burns down. You just can't do that. Or people get sued, people die. Okay, I've made a big point about engineers, right? So when you look at a system, a basic system, which is called an open system, has 5 components. Now, if any engineers are listening out there, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. This is basics. And that has 5 parts to that system. It's got input, it's got an output, and in the middle, it's got transport, conversion, and storage. Very interesting, right? So if you look at a light bulb, what's the input? You flip the switch. The electricity goes in. It's transporting, right? And then you've got the bulb that houses the filament. That's the storage component, right? And then the conversion is the electric goes through the filament, creates heat and light, or creates heat and then creates light, right? And the output is light, right? So there's a basic system right there. That's it's either called an open or AKA dumb system. It just works, okay? Now, when you go to Ayurvedic medicine and traditional herbal healers and what they're doing over there, they have something called karma and karma fall. Well, that's what karma is. People think karma is what you do is what you get back. That's not what it means. Karma is input. Karma fall, P-H-A-L, is output. And in the middle, vata, pitta, kapha, transport, conversion, storage. Now, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, he left MIT after like 4 degrees at MIT. His grandmother was a Siddhar healer back in the village. And she used to work 6 days a week, 16 hours in the field, and then 1 day a week there'd be 20, 30 people at her door, and she would help them heal through mixing up herbs, certain massage, touch, working through things, giving them certain yogic positions to go home and practice so these people could heal themselves, right? So he grew up and he saw his grandmother as a young child healing people. So he went back to India as 4 degrees from MIT as an engineer, and he kind of made the Rosetta Stone and made this whole connection. What I'm sharing with you right now is what I learned from him in his work when he had a Fulbright scholarship and he went over to MIT. And people are like, what are you doing? You could be billing at $2,500 to $3,500 an hour and you're over here trying to fart around with herbs and stuff and this. Well, he was interested in that. He's one of the top immune system experts in the world. So what you have to understand is that these for the folks listening is that Ayurvedic medicine is it's not like they're trying to figure it out. It's engineering principles steeped in that medicine is steeped in engineering principles over 10,000 years. They know what's going to work. So my formulator talks to one of the most gurus of all gurus in India, and he walks up to him and he's like, "Will you train me?" And the guy said yes. And so his training began. And long story short, Dr. Scott Treadway became a master herbalist in Indian herbology, trained in the ways of engineering, system science, and medicine over there in Ayurvedic technologies, basically. So then he came back and he went on to become a master herbalist, not just in Indian herbology, but also in Chinese herbology and Western herbology. The only one he hasn't mastered was the Aboriginal herbology in Australia, just because the Aborigines over there are kind of keeping their medicines tight to their chest because they don't want Big Pharma to come over and start raping their lands for the stuff and then, synthesizing it and doing all this stuff. And there's other indigenous places around the world, South America, North America, with Native Americans here. There's medicines and stuff they've been using for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It works, just to give people an example, because sometimes people are like, questioning like, oh, that's woo-woo, medicine man stuff. It's like, no, dude, they've been doing this stuff for tens of thousands of years. It works. So I'll give you a good example. So when, and people can look this up. So I like to give examples that people can, cross-check me, right? So Paul McCartney, you've heard of that dude? Mm-hmm. I think he was with a band called the Beatles. They had a couple songs or something. Well, he was dating this supermodel named Heather Mills. And Heather Mills got in, so he's dating a supermodel, and she gets in a horrible accident. I think it was some type of car accident or a motorcycle went by her really fast or something and cut her leg off. She lost her leg. And she went into the hospital, I believe, over in Europe and got an infection in her stump. And it got worse, and so they gave her antibiotics, but they weren't working. And so they had to cut off more of her stump, right, after they just fixed it. and it got infected again. So they were trying more antibiotics and different types and higher amounts. It didn't work. So they had to cut more of her leg off. And then it got infected again. And then her friend said, hey, look, Heather, you need to do something different or you're going to die. I mean, this is very bad. These antibiotics things are not working. And she said, you need to go to the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, and see what they have for you, because she'd had a great experience there. Just happens to be that's where I started my health journey when my friend Charles got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And like you said in that past episode, pretty much went into the whole journey and everything. It's quite remarkable. I just saw Charles this weekend, by the way, and got to hang out with him. And, we're friends, and he's playing guitar, and he's got his cancer handled. He healed himself, right? He made his health a priority. He healed himself. So it's really interesting that Heather went to the same institute that I went to. I think it's cool. Originally started by Ann Wigmore, who healed herself of stage 4 colon cancer, a gal from Lithuania. So that's a whole nother story we could get into today, which is amazing. And she goes over there, and guess what they did? They said, oh, you have an infection, a topical infection. Here, let's show you how to take care of that. We're going to take 100% raw organic garlic clove, and you're going to press that. You're going to put that in a dish. 1/3 that, and 2/3 organic olive oil. So 1 part fresh pressed organic garlic and 2 parts cold pressed organic olive oil. Now, and then mix it together. And then you have to let it stand for about 30 minutes. Why? Because garlic is very caustic. On the pH scale, it's about a 3.3, so it's highly acid. Now, I've actually seen video, like zoom in type video of where you can see bacteria on like a table, and then you have the garlic oil stuff. Just the fumes, when you zoom in, the fumes, it's almost like a nuclear bomb is wiping out all the bacteria. It's 100% kill zone. It kills the bad bacteria. But here's the cool thing. It doesn't kill the good bacteria on your skin that's going to stitch you up and heal you, which is very important. Amazing. This is why when you put, hydrogen peroxide is a great way to go as a disinfectant, because it's going to go in there and it's going to kill the bad bacteria, but it's also knocking out the good as well. Yeah. Right? A little bit. So, and that's why you don't want to use, stuff like hand sanitizers. Yeah, you're in those cases, not 100% kill zone. They kill 99.8 or 99.7 or 99.9. So that 0.01 or 0.02 or 0.03 stays behind, becomes stronger and more resilient, starts breeding, gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And you're actually killing your immune system when you put Purell and that kind of crap on your body, like literally. So anyway, back to the garlic story. They taught her, literally, imagine she just got her leg whacked off. She's about ready to die. She had her leg whacked off once in an accident, 2 more times at the hospital, and now she's at Hippocrates. They showed her how to make this mixture and then let it sit for 30 minutes and then apply it to her stump and put some gauze on it and change the gauze and bandage 3 times a day. And guess what happened? In 2 weeks, she was running around the institute on her prosthetic. Go look it up. Gosh. Heather Mills. And you know what happened since then? When I was a kid, I got ingrown toenails. I don't know if have you ever had those?
I've had an infected toenail it was ingrown and infected, and it was really bad. I was in Florida walking around barefoot, and I couldn't figure out whether it was something I did just walk around barefoot or whether it was because it was ingrown, but it was so bad. It was my big toe, and it got so infected, the entire toenail fell off. And it was incredibly painful. And then I just used tincture oil every day, and a bunch of other essential oils. I wish I'd known about the garlic, but I just used a bunch of essential oils to get over it, which it didn't happen. The healing didn't happen as fast as I would have hoped. But I bet that garlic oil would have.
Check this out. This is so cool. So I had an ingrown toenail when I was 16, and it prevented me from playing a baseball game, and I was totally into baseball. So what ends up happening is when you have an ingrown toenail, typically what they have to do is they got to numb the toe first thing, because what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to cut. If they do it properly, they're going to take scissors, and they're going to go 1/3 of the nail, and they're going to angle it in towards the corner, just slight angle, so as it grows out, it doesn't catch again, right? So you literally take scissors and cut your nail down to the nail bed, tear it off, and then take silver nitrate on a stick and then burn the cuticle down there with silver nitrate on a stick, and then they bandage you up. Well, that sounds horrible, and imagine how painful that would be. So that's why you have to have an anesthetic, right? But to administer the anesthetic, they have to take that little needle and they have to stick it into the nerve bundles in the tip of your big toe.
No,
This
thank
is
you.
what was used in wartime. They would take bamboo splinters over in like, Vietnam or whatever, and they would shove them down the toe because it's one of the most painful things on the planet. So they would give me something to bite on, and then they would jam that antiseptic in, which is a toxin, basically. But they got to numb the toe. Then they cut it off, and then they send you home, and you're eating Vicodin that are destroying your liver, right? And you have to, your toes like thump, 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 and it's painful for a day or two, and it slowly gets better, and voila, and you're finally better, and thank God. However, what happened was, and I've been through that process 3 times in my life. It's one of the most painful things I've been through. My son, he's about 16 too, I think. He got an infected toenail, and I was like, we're going to do garlic olive oil. So we did garlic olive. I mean, it was so, it was like, you can't even touch it, right? It's so hot. It's just painful. I was like, yeah, your toenail is ingrown there. So we bandaged it 2-3 times a day, changed the bandage. And within 2 days, the infection was completely gone, no pain. And we're able to get in there and get under the nail and start packing cotton underneath it and allow it to grow out. That's what we did. And he never had to have that needle gem down his toe. He never had to have the anesthesia, which is a toxin in his body that his body had to chelate out. And he never had to take any pain meds, right? He did it himself at home. And my question is that with Heather Mills and my son, how expensive was that?
Like 30 cents.
Yeah, and it's like, and if you have that stuff at your house, which you probably should, if you're kind of eating healthy and you're into it, you didn't even have to go anywhere. You just handle it right there. Now, maybe you had to make a trip to the store, but you didn't have to go to a doctor's office, waste their time on something you could handle yourself, literally, right? And it'd be a much better process for you, and you don't have to wait in a waiting room and do all that stuff, right? And put on masks and all the crazy stuff they make you do, and put Purell on your body as you go into these places and lower your immune system. First thing they do. Yeah. So anyway.
Absolutely.
My point is that these herbal technologies work, and they've been working for thousands and thousands of years. This is why our products work so well, is because they're steeped in engineering system science. That's number one. Number two, right? So we already know how they're going to work on the human body. Number two, it's the quality of ingredients. Dr. Treadway has been sourcing ingredients for well over 40 years. And he said it took him over 20 years to get all the right sources in place. Imagine his main job is like sourcing ingredients for 20 years. So I'm piggybacking off of that as well, right? The source and the quality of the materials that are going into the products, right? So those are 2 main things. Now, the third thing is how it's processed. The third thing is very important, because if you process stuff like with too much heat or too fast, it could create heat. It's going to oxidize it even more. Anytime you're processing anything, you're going to lose nutrient value at some level. It's just going to happen, right? So we want minimal processing. One thing we didn't talk about, I don't think, in the last episode, because you brought up a Green 85, which was our first product, and it's our number 1 seller, is that our products actually have life force in them. They have energy. They have enzyme activity. What does that mean? So if you actually, I don't know, have you heard of Kirlian photography?
We talked about it on the episode 442.
Sweet. Okay, quick recap. Kirlian photography measures the energy that emits from any living thing, right? Or even like rocks and stuff. You can see how much it puts off. And you can take a picture with it, or you can shoot a video with it, right? So when I was looking for a lab to make my stuff, that was one of my criteria. They had to know about the energetics, not just the quality of the nutrients and stuff. I wanted it when it was finally packaged and done, that I could open a capsule up and take a photo and it's glowing, right? Or take the greens and put them on a table on a plate or something and videotape it, or take a picture with Kirlian photography, and I've got all this energy emitting out of it. And when over 30 labs, none of them even knew what I was talking about. Like I said before, they tilt their head sideways like there's a dog hearing a weird noise. But when I talked to Dr. Treadway, I said, "Do you know about Kirlian photography?" He's like, "Oh yes, we have 2 of those cameras here at the lab." That's when I knew. That's when I knew I had my dude. And then he's become like one of my best friends, like a surrogate father, a mentor, and he's one of the top supplement consultants in the industry. But the cool thing is what he told me. He says, like, my company is one of the few companies that he allows him to make it the way it's supposed to be made, and then they don't change the ingredients or modify parts of it or put in some type of excipient, binder, filler, or flow agent that is not good for you for speed of manufacturing. So we're one of the very few places on the planet that do all that. So that's why everything works so well. And I build everything for me. All this stuff, all these products, I'm building for myself. And I want the absolute best because I was on a slippery slope, and I do not ever want to go back to the health I had. That created a lot of contrast for me, and I want to move forward in life, and I want to wake up and feel so good and have so much energy and not buy into, oh, you're 49 years old and you should be, you're getting older. Screw that. I want to keep learning how to have my cellular age be younger and younger and younger every year, and I'm learning these things, and this is what I'm up to. So that's the whole backstory on the products and the quality and the ingredients and the history, and it's literally steeped in system science over 10,000 years, and we just don't compromise because I put the stuff in myself.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I meant by one-man show. I didn't mean there's only you sitting in a room alone. I'm sorry, and I know...
a mad scientist. No, I have the vision, and I've assembled the team of the right people, yes. And Dr. Treadway's a very instrumental part in this. But like I said, how many people that want to start a supplement company are going to go around to 30 labs plus until they find what they're, and most people don't even really know what they're looking for because there's good people out there. I've helped over a dozen other companies get their supplements right. Just because I met them and I got to know them, wow, he or she really has a good heart. I'm like, are you open if I could share something with you about your products? Because I see you have 7 products here, but there's 5 of them that I wouldn't put in my body. Do you want to know why? And they're like, yes, please tell me. And I would share with them oh my God, I had no idea. Right? Mm-hmm. They're not bad people. And in some of these cases, other places, the bigger companies, they don't care. You're just a number. And,
right.
If you ever want to find out if a supplement is good or not, an easy litmus test, if it's in a great big grocery box store, it's probably not. It's 99% chance. But what you can do is you can type in the name of the company, XYZ company, and then what you can do is, type in who purchased, and then put the name of the company. And then if something like Nestle or Procter & Gamble shows up, in my opinion, you probably wouldn't want to buy that.
There's so many companies I used to buy from that got bought up, and you just know it's not the same. And I go on forums and stuff like that, and people will say it's not the same. They changed the formula, that kind of thing. But that's what I love about the first product, which is what you created, the Green 85, and have gone on to formulate a few others amazing stuff, which we're going to talk about today. The one that had a profound impact on my mental health and on my husband as well. So this one product, which I was frankly really, I don't want to say skeptical, but I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to try it. And I was like, because you told me, hey, this is good for the immune system. I'm like, well, my immune system's okay. I don't really have any, major issues there, but I'm going to take it. And I'll just tell the story. So last year, many of my listeners know that last year, we lost our daughter during childbirth, and she passed away right 4 minutes before delivery. And we don't know why. The autopsy was inconclusive. No one knows why. I was incredibly distraught, beyond measure. And then days later had COVID. I had really, really bad. And of course, my immune system shot. My stress is through the roof. My blood pressure's through the roof because I'm grieving, right? And I'm postpartum. And then my immune system shot. And then if the doctors were like, well, we think maybe because I couldn't breathe. Well, I couldn't breathe for many reasons. One being I was fighting a lung infection, but they were worried it was a blood clot. And so I went to the hospital, and they tried to get me on these experimental meds, which was a real trip to watch the theater, to watch the medical theater happening before me, knowing the right questions to ask. And I looked into their studies of, I wasn't going to take it, but I was just like, well, while they're offering me this experimental drug that they're not sure if my insurance will cover, but they have really high hopes because they think I'm going to die. I'm going to look at it, right, and just see what the studies say. And it showed that I had a 1% greater chance of dying in the hospital should I take this med than if I were to not take this med. I'm like, there's your first clue. So I went home, and interesting, the doctor said between day 8 and day 9 is sort of that's when most people enter the hospital. It's kind of like the tipping point. He goes, if you can get over day 9, you'll be fine. You'll be back on the mend. So you really came in at the worst time. And I could have stayed home had I known for sure it wasn't a blood clot that had entered my lungs from, just having given birth. And so anyways, they cleared me for the clots. I went home. The next day I was doing much better. And of course, I am taking all my homeopathy, all my herbs. I'm taking everything that I possibly can. And I'm getting better and better. Since then, fast forward a few months later, we've moved. We had to move out of our home of 7 years. So it was like a tremendous amount of stress and grief. And then unfortunately, a family member was passing away, and my husband left us to go take care of them. So now I'm alone, homeschooling our son, managing the household kind of thing alone. And I start getting PTSD attacks daily. And I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know why I enter the kitchen and I cannot put a meal together. And I love cooking, but I didn't understand, why can I not complete a task? And so I sat down with Dr. Glenn Livingston. I just love the man. I've had him on the show multiple times. He's a PhD psychologist, and he primarily deals with helping people to heal emotionally via eating and overeating. But I reached out to him. I said, I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like maybe this is maybe it's COVID brain, like long haul COVID brain. I feel like my brain's Swiss cheese. I explained to him everything that was going on. I waking up, 5 or more times in the night, really getting broken sleep, can't even complete basic tasks. I walk into the kitchen. I could maybe start to cook, but I couldn't finish. I couldn't even have the brain power to complete things. I used to do 3 episodes a week of my show. I was doing 1 a month. So everything was just incredibly difficult. And at the drop of a pin, I would just burst into tears. And I'm a very strong person. It's not that I'm this, I don't know, I'm not weak, emotionally or mentally or physically. I'm a strong-willed person. And I explain everything to him. And Glenn goes, Ashley, you have post-traumatic stress. You are experiencing post-traumatic stress. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. And he explained to me what it meant. So this was back in January, February, March. I was having daily and I feel so bad for our son who he would, I don't know, talk too loud, and all of a sudden I'd burst into tears. It was just any kind of stimulus, and I couldn't control it at the time. But I was looking to heal. So I was reaching out to different experts that I knew that could help me, starting with Glenn Livingston. And I started seeing a fantastic therapist that was a friend of mine who was giving me some great pointers. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And then comes along Dr. William Davis. He came back on the show. This is I can't remember. It was February maybe of this year. And he talks about the Lactobacillus rhodori yogurt, which he says increases serotonin and helps with depression. I'm like, oh, this sounds great. I'm going to try this. So I made a batch. And after the day I started eating it, that those breakdowns where I could cry at the pin, the drop of a hat, stopped. And I felt like I was I've never been on antidepressants, but I felt like I was on an antidepressant. I was all of a sudden like, wow, it's not like any part of my life circumstances have changed, but I feel like the cloud is lifting. I feel like now I can manage things. Now I can go into the kitchen and actually start a task and finish a task. It's just, things started being a bit more manageable. But I still was waking up about 5 times a night. And so then we have to move again. So here's another stressor. So now we have to move again. And then you tell me, you and I get in contact with each other, and as we do every few months, and you say, hey, you've got to try this product I've made. And I want you to try it before I launch it. And it's, you start telling me all about the immune stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't, immune wasn't sort of on my list. My list was more mental, emotional health. So you send us a bottle, and I take I think your bottle says take one dropper full. I gotta tell you, I'm one of those people who's gonna take two droppers full. So I take two droppers full, thinking it's no big deal, right? Just two droppers full. And I lie down to go to sleep, fully expecting to wake up 5 times that night, right? Because I have since our daughter died. And I close my eyes, fall asleep. And all of a sudden it's light in the room. And I open my eyes and I'm really confused. Why is it light in the room? What's going on? And I come to and I realize it is the morning. I have slept the entire night. First time since she died. And I was like, and I have had since then, since starting taking this, I have had such sound sleep. And I really feel like this, like how the lactose disorder yogurt helped me. It immediately took the edge off, like increasing serotonin in the brain. But this stuff, your multi shroom, what it did is it healed something in my brain, the stressors, some kind of stress levels. It decreased the stress levels in my brain to the point where I slept soundly, and then I just noticed I was way more rested jumping out of bed, and it was directly related to the ambient stress that my body was holding at from the grief and the stressors from losing another family member, and the stressors from the 2 moves in the last year. Just all that ambient stress was disrupting my sleep. And I take all kinds of stuff and I do all kinds of things. I'm very, very crunchy, but this single-handedly fixed that for me. So that was me. My husband, who's never dreamt, like we've known each other for 14 years, been married. We're now in our 15th year of marriage. He's never dreamed, he doesn't remember his dreams. And when he started taking this, and maybe he'll come on the microphone and share.
Just not being a dreamer and then taking this and then having really vivid dreams. It's just been a huge change in how I function,
Duffy's never remembered his dreams or like jumped in color or any of that. And since taking it, he will not run out. He's like, get me another bottle of this. We're ordering another bottle, because he now just has these really long, intense dreams that are full of color. And then the next day he's telling them to me. And it's just like this whole new experience in his life. So I want to know, how does this work? How does this?
Well, first off, that's pretty awesome, because that's telling me, like, for me, I always look at like things as in order of importance, right? So oxygen's number 1, because without it, we're dead in 4 to 7 minutes. So air is a pretty big deal. And we know the air quality in people's homes is terrible and the air quality outside is bad. So this is why we teach people to clean their air. You got to get an air purification system, or at least start cracking your windows at night, at least when you're sleeping, to get fresher air in the house. So we take 20,000 breaths a day. Air is important. Number 2, water. Without water, you're dead in 11 days, right? So waters are important. You got to get your water right, clean it up, restructure it, do all that jazz, especially if you're on tap water. And then number 3, which is actually a tie for number 2, is sleep. Because without sleep, you die in 11 days. So water and sleep are equivalent. Think about that, in my opinion. Because without water or sleep, either one, you will die in 11 days. So they're kind of a tie for the silver medal. The gold medal is the oxygen deal. But number 2 is water and sleep. So you want to be able to, everybody listening, sleep is so important. It's just as important as drinking water. Your body's mostly made of what? Water, right? So what's telling me is that he's dreaming. He's getting into those deep, rapid eye movement, right? He's getting into a deeper state where his body can rest and restore itself properly. So this is really huge for boosting immune system, helping people lose weight that are suffering, because there's this thing called shallow sleep syndrome, where people are sleeping. They might even be sleeping 8 hours, but they're not getting into the deep, restive, restorative sleep, and their body doesn't have a chance to really balance its hormones out and do all the things it needs to do. So this is a very important thing, and since you've mentioned it on the multi-shroom, we've had other people starting to reach out and talk about the sleep aspect too. I didn't It wasn't built for that. It literally wasn't. I built it because it was another pathway for me to build my immune system. I was buying, chaga as an example in chunks from another company, and then I would make tea out of it. And there was different powders where I was getting lion's mane or cordyceps and reishi and shiitake and maitake, and I was putting all that stuff together. And, and then I just decided to I'm going to build a mushroom product so I can just get all of it in one squirt, basically, and make my life easier and help people with it. So we built it for me to build for another pathway of immunity, but it's really, 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 really good for mood, mind, and mental clarity. So we have a lot of people who are taking that have anxiety and depression, and also, like I said, it's an immune system boost. So the sleep thing was just like this added massive side benefit that people are starting to get.
And listeners can go check it out. And actually, you have a ton of science on your website. If they scroll down, they'll see, I love it. You title it Science
Yeah.
below it. So listeners, you can go to learntruehealth.com/mushrooms. That's learntruehealth.com/mushrooms. And it will take you to the page, and then just scroll down. And we're going to talk about some of that science today, because I really want to get into why this is different than, because my husband even said at one point when we were running low, he's like, can you just go downstairs and get your dried mushrooms and just make me a juice or something so I can keep having these benefits? And I said, no, it's actually Tim's product is different, and you can't just make it in your kitchen. If we took all these mushrooms, we can't just make it in your kitchen because of, and I don't remember the name of it, but can you explain how it's broken down so that we actually absorb it in our mouth?
Yeah, so this is huge. So what happened is this, I just feel like, I literally feel like I found a treasure chest full of gold. Like, literally. Imagine you're on an island with your friends and somebody gives you a map and you're digging around and you literally find it. You find a big old thing and it's worth, billions of dollars or something, right? But I'm talking about billions of dollars of health equity is what I found. So a few years ago, I was reading a study on turmeric where they were able to increase the anti-inflammatory response in turmeric by 185-fold. Think about that. Not 185%, 185-fold. It says it right in 63 people that they had. And what they did was they took the curcumin, and which is the active in turmeric, that's the anti-inflammatory, curcuminoids, and they mechanically made it very tiny. It's almost like nanoparticle size, but it's not been messed around with the lab. This is a mechanically made deal. So they just take the raw materials and basically just visualize that they get ground down to super tiny particles, okay? What that does is then become hyper absorbable. And then you have to suspend them in a liquid, right? Which makes them even more absorbable. So they actually fed these curcuminoids that were made in this manner to these people, and they noticed 185-fold more reduction in inflammation. So anybody listening out there that's got knee pain, joint pain, back pain, arthritis pain, all this kind of stuff, turmeric should be in your daily regimen, right? But for me, I did want that, but I knew cellular inflammation was a big problem, right? So when your cells are inflamed, you can't get nutrients into the cell as well, and you can't get the detox stuff out, the toxins out. So I wanted to reduce cellular inflammation so I could have better response in my whole body. And then I knew the pain thing, any aches and pains or recovery from workouts would just improve, which it did. It reduced my inflammation from workouts by 50%. It was quite remarkable. So that process, we bought the machine. It was very expensive, and we built Turmeric 100. And that was our first product that we're used for this proprietary cellular absorption system. Well, like I said, we're a small mom and pop company, basically. And, I've got lots of products that I want to launch, but it's just a matter of having the funds to do it. So as more and more people learn about this stuff and get on the products and consume them and use them and tell their friends about it, we'll just keep coming out with new stuff, which we've got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming out anyway, but because that is happening. All right, so that system now we used on multi-shroom because we have the machine already. So what we did was we took the highest quality chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, shiitake, and maitake. There's 6 of them. and we put those all together. Now, I told Dr. Treadway, I said, look, dude, I want this to boost my immune system, and I also want it to be good for mind, mood, and immunity, because I know about the depression and anxiety out there, because I'm dealing with it as a coach all the time. And even my clients are telling me, friends and relatives and kids and everybody's there on depression medication and stuff. It's terrible. So those are the 6 that he came up with, once again, based on Ayurvedic system science, using his master herbalism background from those 3 different places around the world. And he came up with those 6 in certain percentages. And then what we did was we actually added a complete multi-mineral to it, because it like jacks up the efficacy on all this stuff. It works together. So everybody's deficient in minerals and anyway. So it just makes sense and helps build, strong cell walls and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of good fulvics and humics in here, and pretty much every mineral under the elemental chart, but they're all from plant-based sources. So not only are you getting a mushroom product, but you're also getting a complete multi-mineral. So it's literally like 7 products in one, if you want to really look at it that way, because we have 7 different things. So what happens is we take that, we run it through that process where we mechanically make the particles very tiny. We suspend it in a liquid, and we don't use emulsifiers. So what's an emulsifier? An emulsifier is something that will keep the particles from separating, right? We don't do that, because a lot of the emulsifiers like xanthan gum, and you probably learned this from, and those listeners are listening, from Dr. William Davis. He talked about xanthan gum and gellan gum. They actually eat your intestinal lining, and it's in a lot of most of the products out there. I mean, look at the even the plant-based milks. Almost all of them have those 2 things. So you're getting off of dairy, but then you're putting something in there that's eating your digestive lining. It's silly. So we don't put that in there. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to shake this really good every time before you take it. But that's just the way it is. I'm not going to put that crap in the bottle. So you just have to shake it really, really good, because the constituents will settle. So you just shake it up, squirt one in your mouth 1 time, and swish it around. You want to get maximum coverage on the mucous membrane in the skin inside of your mouth, and just hold it for 15 to 30 seconds. It'll literally disappear through the mucus membrane. If there's anything left, swallow it. And as it's going down through your throat, it's still going through the mucous membrane in your throat into your body. Very little is actually going to make it to the digestive tract. It literally goes directly into the bloodstream. And because it's so small, it goes directly into the cell. It's so small that it can these constituents can go through the blood-brain barrier. Okay? So this is very, very powerful stuff. Now, why do we do this? Well, because we know that people are having digestion issues today. Over 90% of people have leaky gut syndrome at some level. Where you get these microscopic tears in the intestinal lining, then undigested food particles, and microbes are getting in there, and they're wreaking havoc on the body all over the place. So the digestive tract is compromised. Any food that you're eating today or supplements that you're taking, you're probably only going to get about 10 to 30% absorption rate. That's just the way it is. So 90 to 70% of what you're consuming, whether it be food, drinks, or supplements, is it's going to go through and you're going to poop it out, which is okay. So my whole mission for the last 11 years has been to help people improve digestion, improve that process, and up their game so they're getting more of what they're consuming. Because it's smarter, it costs less money, you'll eat less, and it's healthier, and we need more nutrients. We're definitely deficient. So that's been my whole project, and that was one of the reasons that turmeric product came, was to increase that ability. We are bypassing all of those problems by doing this. It doesn't matter how bad your digestive tract is on absorption levels. You could be down at the 10% range. Doesn't matter. This stuff is going right into your cell through the mucous membrane in the mouth via the blood. So this is why it's so powerful, Ashley, is because we're bypassing the problems that have been created from the amount of stress that we have in modern society, the amount of toxic pollution, the body burn that's built up in the cells, the fat and muscle tissue, and the lack of nutrition that's weakened us, especially on the micro level. So we're actually able to literally hand the cell what it needs very quickly. And within 5 minutes, the entire cardiovascular system, the blood system, transports all these nutrients of whatever we put into that. And within 5 minutes, your entire blood is doused with these things, and it's going everywhere it needs to go. And whatever it doesn't need, because it's naturally occurring, the body will just get rid of it.
Can you talk about the size of the molecules, like before versus after it goes through that process?
I actually don't know. I don't know I just know they're really tiny.
Tiny, micro.
Yeah.
Well, I notice it when I put it in my mouth. I usually hold it for a minute, and I notice that it's almost gone. And then I swallow what's ever left. It tastes good. It tastes like kind of like chocolate. And what I like also is that there's no alcohol in it. Like so many tinctures, herbal tinctures, it burns the mouth and it's alcohol. And because of the process that you've put this through, it doesn't need to be alcohol based. So I
Yeah,
find that
well, we also
interesting.
use, which it's a good thing, but it's also unfortunate because for years I've been talking about one of the things we use is we use a naturally occurring citric acid, okay? And that's a preservative, okay?
Hmm.
Now, with that said, it's naturally occurring, which means it's from like an orange, right? So when it comes into the body, it's coming in with all of its bioflavonoids and its cofactors and it's buffered. Kind of like coffee, right? If you actually found a shade-grown coffee that wasn't processed, that took out the L-theanine as an example, which buffers the coffee. That's why if people are just drinking black coffee, it's been, the way it's made today, modern world, you should be squirting L-theanine in there to buffer it so it's not like, eating away at your cells basically, right? And opening up and your nerve endings, eating that myelin sheath. That's why people like get jittery is because the coffee's eating the myelin sheath and you're exposing your nerves. So it's like pouring acid on your nerve endings. That's why when people drink coffee, they go, hey. But if you had L-theanine in there, it's a buffer. But see, it's been stripped out. So I have to say this because if anybody listens to me talk some other planet, far, far away, or I'm just talking a few years ago or whatever, sometimes I'll be talking about citric acid and it's not good. But I'm talking about the citric acid that's been stripped of all of its stuff. Okay.
Hmm.
Because there's our gut's got all these different bacteria in them, and one of them is called citrobacter. So if you're actually putting citric acids in your body, you're actually feeding a bad bacteria, and it could cause an overgrowth and cause a problem. Ours won't do that because it's naturally occurring. So I just want to make that distinction because it's very important because somebody hears me go, citric acid's bad, and they look at the label, and it's like, he's got citric acid here. No, it's naturally occurring citric acid, but it was the best thing. And I told Dr. Trev, I was like, can't we find something else that works just as good? He's like, no, this is what works the best. I was like, okay, well, I'll just have to tell people about it then because I just don't want them thinking one thing. And, you got to explain stuff because people will challenge me on that stuff. So,
Right.
which I don't blame them because I was Sherlock Holmes too. I want to get to the bottom of this stuff. And, I'm just tired of being lied to.
Let's go through the list. And thank you for clarifying because it's, uh, we just don't know where the source is from, right? And we'll hear it's from black mold, it's from GMO corn, it's from So
Right.
it's good to know that they're not all citric acids made equal, and that you're sourcing the best quality. And you and I off air have talked about the different ingredients, the different plants that you source, and the level at which you will strive to get the highest quality because you are designing it for your health first. Because imagine if we all, as the community listening to this, if we had a magic wand and we could formulate our own products for ourselves, like go down the list of our own health issues and go, okay, I want to take a drink, or I want to take some kind of supplement or a tincture that is going to be filled with these herbs or these plants, and I want to supercharge my cells with this. And we could formulate our own stuff, right? We have all the resources at our fingertips. That's what you do. You sit there and go, what do I want for my own body? And it's going to be so good. I can also provide it so other people can purchase it and try it and
Yeah.
help their bodies heal. So I love that about, and that's again what I meant by the one man show is that you're sitting there, you have a team, but you're sitting there going, you're not some big corporation looking to get low quality stuff and make a big profit. Of course, we want you to be profitable because you're taking those profits and putting them back into more and more fantastic, incredibly medicinal and healing products. You're looking to change lives and help people, and I love your ethics. And so I am so happy that we came across each other's paths because this is what I want. I want to find more Tim Jameses out there, the people out there who are striving to make incredibly ethical companies and ethical products to really help people. And that's
Yeah,
what,
I really, really appreciate that. And,
hmm
originally a lot of the stuff was the reason I started formulating with Dr. Treadway is because and started looking, I was just getting frustrated as a coach. When you become Sherlock Holmes and you start researching every single ingredient, which nobody does, I would go down these rabbit holes and I'm like, well, I can't eat that anymore.
yeah.
And then I can't eat that anymore. It was just like, then it was like almost everything I was eating was like jeopardized at some level. Then you'd finally find this product and you're like, oh my God, like I can eat this. This is great. Woohoo. Check that off the list. Okay, now I've got my protein powder. I don't do protein powders anymore, but back in the day I did. And then all of a sudden, that's one of the reasons because they put xanthan gum in a protein powder I was taking. And I had to look it up. And I'm like, what is xanthan gum? And I looked it up. It's like mutated corn syrup fermented in bacteria used as an emulsifier to stop things from separating. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what? And then, you find out it eats the intestinal lining. And I'm like, why would I ever put that in my gut? I had gut issues. I was bleeding rectally for years when I pooped. My vacation was ruined because I had an appendicitis, had to have it removed, and I almost died on a trip to Peru with my wife and dad and ruined the vacation for them. I don't want any more gut issues. I'm trying to heal my gut. I've learned about those little villi, hair-like structures. I want to take care of them. They're my little buddies. And I want them to hang out and be in the best environment possible. Why would I consume something daily that's going to erode them? I'm not going to. Just because it's in a store, it's okay. It's unfortunate that we even have to be having this conversation. It's actually quite silly that we're at a point in time where we're supposedly so evolved, yet, human beings are the sickest we've ever been in the history of the planet, and then we don't get it, why we're sick. And then we go into a medical system that was designed in crisis care during wartime to take care of people getting their arms blown off or shrapnel or getting shot in the shoulder. And the answer is a synthetic pill that has 37 side effects that only works on 10% of the people that take it, and the other 90% have severe to mild to severe to all the way up to death. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, when are we just going to wake up as adults and say, hey, look, this isn't good? We have children today that are being born with diabetes. We have children today that are being born that are overweight and now even obese. And now, if this one doesn't get people, we are having children today that are being born with cancer. So that they come out of the womb and chemo. They go right into that kind of stuff. Like, what the hell are we? What are we doing? Like, working class people listening to this episode right now, like, we need to take the reins back of our health. We need to learn how to become our own doctors. We need to learn how to self-heal, because nobody else is going to do it for you. There is no top-down approach that's going to happen. It has to be us. We have to unite once again and fight for what's like true and real and has actual results. And everything's always nature based because people forget we're from nature. So anyway, I get a little passionate about it, but that's where we're at.
I'm right there. I'm right there on the soapbox with you. We have to remind ourselves that like, healing is easy in that the body will heal itself. That will happen. The hard part is the mindset. That's if you can, it's sort of like the hardest part of going to the gym is getting your shoes on. Like, if you can just get that gym clothing on, get your shoes on, get in the car, you're good. Like, that is for whatever reason, the mindset that gets you to put your shoes on and just start driving to the gym, or if you're going to go for a run or whatever it is. The hardest part is that those first few actions that lead you into that habit, right? And that's because we're going up against, when it comes to being healthy, we're swimming against the stream, right? We are the salmon, we're swimming against the stream. Because if we go with the flow and we eat what everyone else is eating and we live the lifestyle that the majority is doing, then we will be a statistic. And 70% of adult Americans are on at least one prescription medication. Most of them, they don't need to be on those, right? There are some life-saving medications, and I appreciate medication when it saves someone's life. The majority of medications are unneeded and could be replaced with an herb. And I have Dr. Klinghardt on the show, who's been a medical doctor for over 40 years, and he practices holistic medicine. And he takes very sick people like Lyme disease and some unknown diagnosis that, these people have been to every single doctor, and they finally find Dr. Klinghardt, and they fly around the world to come see him here. And he's just in my backyard out in Woodinville, Washington. But people come from around the world to see him. And he says his favorite thing to do is to figure out what drug someone needs and then give them the herb that is even better than that drug. He goes very, very, very seldom he has to prescribe a drug, because he'll get better results time after time after time. He'll get better results with the herb or the combination of herbs that that drug was modeled after, right? So what are we doing going after petroleum-based synthetic drugs that suppress the body from healing itself and manage symptoms and create a lot more symptoms? And what are we doing? Why are we on this conveyor belt, right? We're born into a system that if we don't think for ourselves, we'll be on a conveyor belt of disease. 1 in 3 people, and I'm quoting statistics in America, many countries around the world are following closely behind, but 1 in 3 people to 1 in 4 people, depending on whether you're male or female, will have a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. 1 in 3 people is obese, pre-diabetic, or diabetic. The top killers are all like, heart disease, for example, right? Stroke and cardiovascular disease. That's one of the top things that people die of. My dad should not have died in his early 60s. My mom, who to me was always an example of health, should not have died at age 55 with cancer. These were preventable, and they are preventable, but we have to completely go against the grain. We have to choose to drive past all those restaurants and all the drive-throughs and go home and make our own food. We have to choose to source where we get our food, choose to go to bed instead of watching Netflix till 2 a.m, choose to move our body in a way that brings us joy, choose to take time to balance and bring joy to each aspect of our life. We have to be really proactive. And sometimes that's exhausting and hard, because all we want to do is just eat how everyone else is eating and go with the flow. But that backslides us into those statistics. So if you can have the stubbornness and the mindset that, no, I will not put crap in my body no matter how easy it is to do it, then you're on the right path. So it's the mindset. The mindset comes first. If you put your foot down, you say, I will be Sherlock Holmes in the grocery store. I will read labels. I will be a label reader. My husband, man, I mean, God bless him. He'll beg me when we go into a grocery store. He'll be like, please don't read labels today, because it takes us so long. Now, I know what brands I like now, and I don't buy processed food nearly as much as I did. But when 10 years ago, when I was really getting into health stuff, it was it would take 90 minutes. I'd sit there and I would just read. I can't believe that I was just trying to buy a clean hot sauce, right? I'm looking at all the organic hot sauces. And I am like, I can't believe what's in this. Why would they put this ingredient in this hot sauce? And it turns out there's only 2 hot sauces out of the entire shelf of hot sauces that passed my test of clean ingredients. And my husband's like, we've been standing in front of the hot sauces for 45 minutes. Stop reading labels. Let's just go home. But this is what it took. It took being a food detective. Really, time and time and time again. So I appreciate.
Well, hey, I was going to tell you a little quick story. When I was at Hippocrates the first time, they take you on a field trip to a local, really good ma and pa health food store, like a good one, and it was an awesome store. It was homey. They were very, it was just very small townish. This was in West Palm Beach, Florida. So we went to a very good health food store, and they showed us how 85% of everything in that store was not fit for human consumption, and this was a good one.
Yeah.
So this is what you were finding. You go into the bigger box stores, it's probably 2% of the stuff you want to eat.
Right.
It's just the way it is. So all those things, guys, remember, inputs. We talked about that earlier, right? That's part of an open or dumb system where the inputs just come in. We want to be intelligent systems. And intelligent systems have a few more components. They have a goal, which Ashley's talking about. The goal is to put your health as a priority, love yourself, and demand that you just demand good things for yourself. Another thing that an intelligent system has is it can read disturbances, so it knows when it's off course, and then it can also, as a controller, to adjust. So if something's not working, it can make a switch and change. So we definitely want to be intelligent systems. So rather than just being a dumb system and just throwing down our throat whatever is handed to us, we become gatekeepers, because those inputs are going to go into your system and they are going to dictate your output, which is your energy levels, your mental clarity levels, your recovery ability from workouts or whatever, and actually over your sleep and your overall quality of life and how you feel on a daily basis and how you interact with other people. So those inputs are very important.
I love it. And we have to be conscious. That's the thing. Have you ever, I'm kind of posing this question to everyone, not you specifically, but have you ever, everyone who's listening, have you ever gone unconscious with your bank account, for example, and all of a sudden, maybe 20 years ago, maybe not now, but maybe when you were younger, you go unconscious with your finances and all of a sudden your card declines and you're like, what? And you just weren't paying attention. You weren't paying attention to your spending, or you weren't paying attention to your bank account. And I know not everyone can relate to that, but I'm sometimes very unconscious about things I should be conscious of. And I would like, that all of a sudden it surprises you. Or it could be gas. I've never, thank goodness, ran out of gas in a vehicle. I'm pretty conscious, and luckily I have a husband who always tops off the tank. But I see people on the side of the road occasionally. I'm like, how did that person run out of gas? There's all these kind of alarms in your it's telling you it's running out of gas. But sometimes we go unconscious, right? So we go unconscious with the gas tank, or we go unconscious with the finances, and all of a sudden we're surprised. Oh, or maybe, you thought there was broccoli or bread or whatever in the cup, in the drawer of the fridge. You open the fridge and it's empty. You're like, oh, I forgot to restock that. So in plenty of times we get busy and we go unconscious, and then we're surprised. And this is one of those things, is we can't go unconscious around the inputs, the intelligent inputs we put into our health. Just like we really shouldn't go unconscious with our finances, because we might not be able to pay the rent or the mortgage, right? Or buy food, right? So it's, or we'll get bounce checks or whatever, or you'll end up with no gas in your car because you went unconscious with the gas in the car. So that level of maintaining awareness is really important until you've developed enough health habits that you have, like I said, I used to read labels all the time, but now I've got my brands, things I trust. And so I don't have to sit there, although I should once in a while recheck, because sometimes companies will change the ingredients on you. But now I'm more, I have my methods, right? I have my habits, I have my methods. And so it's become unconscious because I've set up a system. But when we're first creating new health habits, we have to be very conscious of the inputs. So that's my thing, is I've seen so many people where they're like, well, I used to be healthy and I don't know what happened. I just stopped paying attention. And all of a sudden now a year's gone by and I've been eating out every day. That's one of my first things, is I'll have clients fill out on the intake form what percentage of meals is home-based. And so many of my clients will write, oh yeah, 70% of my meals are cooked at home. And then a week later, because then we actually start tracking it and we start having them cook at home, they're like, yeah, actually, it was more like 70 to 80% I was eating out, not cooking in. And that's just because we go unconscious. You drive around, you go through the Starbucks, you get the sandwich and the coffee for, I don't know, $15 or something crazy like that. We're draining our bank accounts by eating out, by the way. It's convenient. We go unconscious, but then we're destroying our body because it's a dumb input, like you said. It's a dumb input. It's costing our body and it's costing our bank accounts. So even though people look at organic food, or, the groceries you need to buy, oh, it's so expensive. I spent $200 at the grocery store. It's so expensive. I'm like, well, $200 is like going to the restaurant maybe once or twice for my family. So that $200 is going to be groceries for over a week for us.
Well, on that, there's something that's important that people understand, is that the lower you eat on the food chain, the less expensive the food gets. Right. And you can start buying things in bulk. So if you're also concerned about prepping, or things might go really bad someday, which is possible, there might be a power outage or something. And, if there's a power outage in 4 days, all the food's gone. right? Or if truckers aren't running in 4 days, that's it. So if you're in the city and you're going to the store every day to get your food and you have nothing saved up, that's why I have a trailer full of nuts, seeds, grains, and beans. So if I would recommend that and an edible food wild foraging book for your local area. That would be a very important book to have if something happened. But when you make these changes, there can be some, maybe some new utensils you get. Maybe you buy a juicer and a blender and you didn't do that before. There might be some setup costs. And when you buy seeds, you buy them in bulk and it can add up to a lot. But over time, it's pennies. You're literally eating for pennies. So for people that are thinking, oh, I couldn't do this or I couldn't change my diet because it's going to be more expensive. Well, yeah, if you go down to Whole Foods and you're getting all this prepackaged stuff and shopping at those types of places, it's going to cost more. But if you go to locals farmers markets, you grow your own stuff, you stock up your own seeds, nuts, grains, and beans. You develop some new pathways. Buy in bulk. It's literally going to eat for pennies. And if you learn how to detox your digestive tract and heal it and get it maximized for absorption stuff, and you do things like we take, like the greens, and Ashley and I take the greens, we do certain things, you only need about half as much food that's going through you because your cells are getting the nutrients they need. So your grocery bill gets cut in half right there.
Yeah, okay,
right?
This right here, I've been wondering, why is it that my fridge is still full? I'm like, I'm worried about wasting. So if it looks like these vegetables are about to go bad, I chop them up and I put them in the freezer. We have a giant freezer, and I totally agree with you on the storable food. I like Azure Standard. I get some like bulk seeds and nuts I have from them, and then also like legumes, beans, and brown rice in bulk. And that's great because I use it in the kitchen also, but like you said, if there's ever a power outage or something, here in the Pacific Northwest, we're always worried about the next giant earthquake, which will knock out everything for months. And I've got enough storable food. As long as we can start a fire and cook it, we're good. Or I can take the legumes and sprout it, and making really nutrient dense sprouts. But what I've noticed is because we're eating nutrient dense foods and we're eating less. There's more food left over in the fridge than there used to be. So I thought that was really interesting. I noticed that lately that we are eating less.
Eat less, which means your body, the rental car you've been given for this life, is you don't have the pedal down so much because it doesn't have to. Imagine if you have to process 100 pounds of food in a month versus 50 pounds of food. Which one's going to be a lighter burden on the body? Well, it's going to take a lot more for the person that has to process 100 pounds of nutrient-deficient foods than the person that's processing 50 pounds of nutrient-dense foods. So where does that energy that was going to break down those extra 50 pounds of nutrient-deficient foods go? Well, it goes back to you for your activities of daily living, and your brain starts working better, and your immune system. So you become stronger and you start building back up the walls of the castle. So the viruses and the bacteria and the mold and the yeast and the fungus and the parasites and the cancers, they can't get over the wall anymore, right? So that's, I think, a very important thing just to have an understanding about.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they've discovered with longevity, and when I say longevity, I mean not just living longer, because like living longer with disease would suck, right? So longevity actually means people who are in their 90s, like able to go for walks and garden and still function, like people who are even living into their hundreds, still walking around and being functional. Like there's these people in Okinawa, for example, who are 95 years old and they look like our 65-year-olds, right? They act like our 65-year-olds and they're 95. And one of their principles, and they don't eat processed food nearly as much as Americans do. So they're eating more like Japanese yams. These beautiful purple yams are filled with antioxidants. They're growing their own foods, more whole food diet. But they also have this principle of eating to 80% full, 70 or 80% full. So whereas in America, it's like every meal is like Thanksgiving, right? You're not done until you're stuffed. And I love this idea of just eating till, and watch children, they'll do this. Children will eat till they're no longer hungry. Adults eat till they're full. And it takes about, I think it's the hypothalamus, it takes about 20 minutes for the stomach to tell the hypothalamus that we're full. We're full. You can stop now. But in those 20 minutes, we've been eating for more. So we're overstuffing ourselves. And in that practice in Okinawa, they just eat till they're no longer hungry. And you can eat more.
There's also some emotional stuff too, because my parents grew up. My parents in their 80s, and they didn't have food. Like they had to eat cabbage soup and stuff. So, finish your plate that's what they were taught. And so, it's like if it gets thrown on your plate, you better well finish it. They would have liked to had seconds or thirds, but a lot of times they didn't do it. So there's a mentality there of scarcity that drives it as well. And what you said actually reminds me of, I picked up a book on Benjamin Franklin when I was a kid, and I remember the quote vividly. He said, "Never eat to dullness or drink to elevation," which coincides exactly with what you said. But I don't know what his health was like. The pictures I saw, he had a big belly, so maybe he wasn't paying attention, or they just drew him wrong. I don't know.
Well, I do know about Benjamin Franklin is that he went vegetarian, and then at one point he decided something along the lines of fish don't have feelings, so it's okay to eat them. So he was pescatarian, but he was early on. He's a really interesting guy to research. Early on he decided to not eat animals anymore. I've come across his story a few times in regards to his health habits, at least in his earlier years, which might have led to many of his inventions. Because he had the mental clarity to do so.
Got his brain working better.
Right, exactly. I want to get into intelligent inputs in this mushroom, called the mushroom sauce, in this mushroom tincture. learnyourhealth.com/mushrooms. Check it out. I want to talk about the specific mushrooms, because you said you could talk forever on chaga. It's funny. Just started seeing a new doctor of acupuncture, and I was telling him about this stuff, and he's like, he kind of leans in, and because after I told him the results that I got and the results that Duffy got, he leans in and he goes, "Is it psychedelic?" And I'm like, "No, it's medicinal mushrooms." And he's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah," because it's funny. Here he is, a doctor of acupuncture, and he's like, that's where he goes, because what I described, the results I got and the results that Duffy got, he thought we were like microdosing psilocybin, like we were microdosing magic mushrooms to get these results. I'm like, no, we're getting these results with just, basic, medicinal, not like street drug mushrooms. So I thought that was
they're
funny.
Synthesizing a lot of that stuff. Again, they're not doing natural, but the psilocybin, those are in nature, and I've seen tons of people that are microdosing them solve their depression issues as well. So it's not that they're bad. It's just things get bad raps, and they can be misused, overused, and abused sometimes. And that's where, we have to just be intelligent adults and find out what actually works and produces results.
Yes, and what I meant was it's more of a compliment to your product, because he thought it would have to take a magic mushroom in order to get those results. And I'm like, nope, it's not. It doesn't have to be a magic mushroom. We're getting these results with medicinal mushrooms.
Well, maybe you can send him this episode, and then he'll have a deeper understanding of why it's working so well now, because of the delivery method and the quality of the ingredients and all that stuff.
So let's talk about the intelligent inputs that are inside this stuff. You said you have some really cool things to share about chaga.
Well, yeah. So chaga, it's funny because it's chaga mushroom. It's not actually a mushroom. It's not strictly a mushroom. It's rather a unique fungus that's similar to mushrooms, but people call it a mushroom. Usually they find it growing on birch trees. It's called an Inonotus obliquus. So anyway, chaga is a traditional Native American medicine. It's been used for hundreds of years, okay? And here's just some of the benefits that people have been using for hundreds of years for chaga. Supports the cardiovascular health. Well, that's good. Like you just said, like number one killer, heart disease, right? Supports immune health. That was the reason I built it. I wanted a new pathway of immunity through mushrooms. Maintains blood sugar for people that already have it within healthy limits. Enhances liver, stomach, and skin health. I'm all about all that stuff, especially the skin, the liver, all of it. Stomach. Counteracts tiredness. So it helps with that. Maybe because you're sleeping better. I don't know. Enables free and easy breathing. So a lot of respiratory issues, especially around, seasonal stuff. You got pet allergies and food allergies, and you've got seasonal allergies. encourages a healthy inflammation response, and supports purification of the blood. So my formulator said that, many people have experienced chaga as an essential part of their immune supporting protocols, and they used it daily for that reason. So here's some of the deeper dive on these benefits of chaga, okay? This wonderful fungus. So number one, it's a major antioxidant booster, okay? And we know that there's oxidative stress to the cells that lead to cell damage and all the components of the cells, including the DNA. So cell death, also known as apoptosis, and disruptions in cellular signaling, which is the communication between the cells, happen. So oxidative stress is known to be involved in aging, which I don't want to age like that, and in the development of many age-related ailments and conditions. So antioxidants like chaga can help prevent this oxidative stress. And chaga produces an impressive array of metabolites as well. These are capable of acting as potent free radical scavengers. These little metabolites in chaga can protect DNA from being damaged by oxidative stress. And one study demonstrated that the cells that are pre-treated with chaga mushroom extracts, this is huge. If you pre-treated the cells with chaga mushroom extracts before being treated with a free radical, it showed 40% less DNA damage than those that weren't pre-treated.
Whoa.
That's pretty huge. So chaga is also one of the highest ORAC values out there, right? So that's really important. That's that oxygen radical absorbance capacity. It's called ORAC. It's claimed to be one of the highest out there. Many websites claim it as one of the highest. Chaga is a powerhouse of trace minerals like zinc, copper, iron, manganese. These can also stimulate the production of these SODs, which is short for superoxide dismutase. So these SODs and the enzymes that form the first line of antioxidant defense against damage caused by free radicals. This is all chaga, and that's just talking about the antioxidant boost. Now let's talk about chaga as far as digestion. Chaga has been used traditionally to encourage gastrointestinal health and digestive comfort. And modern research is confirming this, that the gastroprotective properties that it has helps to regulate the gut microflora and the gut bacteria. So extracts of chaga have helped to protect the integrity of the stomach wall when given to rats. And in another study, mice were fed chaga extracts, and the results showed that by regulating the release of cytokines, you probably, with everybody that's been through this whole, COVID thing, has heard about the cytokine storm, which is an inflammation response. Chaga supported the health of the colonic mucosa. So we're talking about the mucous membrane in the colon. It supported that, right? So the antioxidant activity of these polysaccharides in chaga was also found to support pancreatic health and regulate gut microbiome, the composition, and also it's been used for centuries to alleviate gastrointestinal discomfort. And again, modern science is confirming the potential of chaga to promote gut health. So, all right, there's number 2, gut health. Now, what about immunomodulation? So many of you, since you follow Ashley, there's probably a lot of scientific folks on here. You may have read or heard the term adaptogen. Okay, it's a biological response modifier, or BRM, in reference to certain herbs and functional mushrooms. As the name implies, these BRMs are substances that can modulate the immune system's response by either turning it up or down. Okay, so an adaptogen is a type of biological response modifier that must meet 3 criteria. It must be, number 1, nonspecific. It's got to be general, and it must be able to assist the body in handling a wide variety or range of stressors. It must be able to help maintain the body's homeostasis or body balance, right? And number 3, it must not harm, very important, it must not harm the normal functions of the body. So essentially, adaptogens help your body adapt to stress and restore the balance within your body. And with chaga's rich polysaccharide content, it's considered a highly effective adaptogen. Okay, so chaga is basically an immune system adaptogen, all right? Remember, that's one of the reasons I built the product, was I wanted a new pathway for building my immunity. So while the immune system is designed to protect the body against foreign invaders, it can also overact to harmless substances. And this is happening more and more today as the chemical burden that people have, the lack of nutrients, bodies are just going wonky, right? And people are having these crazy responses that can affect your sinuses, your lungs, your eyes, all kinds of stuff. And even though allergies aren't always harmless, some individuals may experience almost like an anaphylactic shock. It could be a severe, sometimes life-threatening allergic reaction. So as an adaptogen, chaga can help balance an overactive immune system, right? So the last thing, as far as immunomodulation goes, there's a substance in chaga called, I can't even pronounce it right, it's called initide, and I can't even say it, initdiol. It's a triterpenoid, active, that's unique in chaga, very unique in this. So it acts as a mast cell stabilizer and can support eye and nasal comfort. Chaga can promote the secretion of certain cytokines to modulate immune responses. And in an animal study, it also showed that chaga mushroom extracts prevented chemically induced immune system overactions. My company is called Chemical Free Body. Everybody that's listening has chemicals in their blood, fat, and muscle tissue. Chaga mushroom extracts, when I read this, I was so excited, can prevent chemically induced immune system overreactions. This is happening to everybody listening. Mm-hmm. Your immune system is overacting to all the chemicals that you're being exposed to in the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, the clothing you're wearing, all this stuff, right? Personal care products that aren't clean. So it's demonstrated its potential as a useful adaptogenic functional food, basically. And studies have shown that the active compounds in chaga may have selectively and actively against many types of malignant cells as well, right? So that's as an immunomodulator, right? Now, another thing is blood sugar balancing. So insulin is the hormone responsible for moving glucose in the bloodstream and into your muscle and your fat cells where it's stored for energy production. Healthy blood sugar levels are linked to good heart, blood vessel, nerve, kidney, skin, and brain health. So chaga is very good for blood glucose levels. And there's been multiple animal studies that suggest that chaga may be able to support balanced blood sugar levels. In one study, they found mice fed the chaga extract for like 3 weeks. They were better able to maintain healthy blood glucose levels as well as total cholesterol, triglycerides, and low-density lipid proteins, the cholesterol, LDLs, bad cholesterol levels. Most notably, the research team found that the feeding chaga supported healthy pancreatic tissue in the mice. So the pancreas, is the organ that secretes insulin. So a follow-up study confirmed that these effects on blood sugar and cholesterol, mice treated with either 30 or 60 milligrams per kilogram body weight of chaga extract for 21 days had similar results as in the first study. So part of chaga's effects on blood sugar may be attributed to the inhibition of the enzyme that breaks down the starch by its polysaccharides. Blocking this enzyme helps slow down glucose absorption in the digestive organs, and research performed in vitro showed that the polysaccharides in chaga inhibit this enzyme. So pretty cool stuff on blood sugar levels, especially for those diabetic folks out there. Now, how about our athletes out there, right? Or just people who are getting tired? Muscle fatigue. Okay, these polysaccharides in chaga also is surprising scientists with their benefits. So as an adaptogen, it has the capacity to bring balance to your entire body, including your energy levels and your muscle endurance. So a study showed that chaga may help increase exercise endurance, and they were given, these subjects were given the chaga extract for like 14 days at different, some of them got none, some of them got 100, some got 200, some got 300 milligrams per kilogram of their body weight. And they were able to swim for longer periods of time than those given just none, right, with just distilled water. Scientists noted that these subjects given chaga also had significantly more glycogen, the predominant storage form of glucose for energy production in their liver and muscles. So this is why, like, when I teach people, if you want to build muscle and you want to triple your muscle growth, we use resistance bands for a physical reason, but we only do one set. And we do at least 15 reps, but we go to failure. But you have to get at least 15 in. When you start doing the second set of reps, or the third or the fourth, you're actually just burning out all this glycogen, right? And that's why your muscles are getting so damn sore. Mm-hmm. So glycogen storage directly affects exercise endurance, and the results of the study suggested that chaga might increase the time before glycogen is depleted. So these chaga polysaccharides are also greatly reduced blood lactate levels in subjects. When you build up, that acid in your body. Yeah. So muscles produce high levels of lactate during high intensity exercise, which contributes to fatigue. And thereby, if you can remove the lactate very quickly, it's beneficial to prevent that daily fatigue. So chaga is just amazing, and it shows great potential as a supplement for athletic endurance. And a lot of these recent studies demonstrate its capacity to increase the storage of glycogen in muscles and decrease blood lactate levels, leading to less muscle fatigue. So there's that one. As far as immunity goes, we talked about a lot of that, but the immune supporting activity is believed to be due to the diverse bioactive compounds found in chaga, like butylin, hispolin, hispidin, lepiol, and these mycosterols. Okay, and butanoic acid, which is unique to chaga, very unique. And chaga's other biocompounds are being investigated by the scientific community as potential agents to protect the body against various foreign invaders. See, but for me at this point, you can go down rabbit holes, Ashley, all you want, but it's like, if I take it and I feel freaking amazing and it's working for me, and I know indigenous people have been using it for centuries, and over in India, it's like thousands of years of, you know what I mean? It's like, why wouldn't I do this? As long as it's working for me, right? It's also good for skin repair and protection. So beta glucans and the butanoic acid in chaga may help slow down signs of aging in your skin. So for guys out there that want to have beautiful skin, I know the ladies do. I know ladies drop, you might have like a huge mortgage payment and a lot of credit card debt, but by God, you're going to have a boatload of skincare on your table. It's going to happen. I know, I've seen it. So I know that skin repair is important too. So chaga infusions have been used to comfort irritated skin and reduce redness and dryness. In a case study of 50 people, they found after taking chaga for 9 to 12 weeks, individuals actually experienced improved skin health as demonstrated by increased skin comfort, smoothness, and moisturization. So melanin also plays an important role in skin health. Now, melanin, like that found in chaga, is thought to protect human skin against DNA damage by absorbing UVA radiation. So one in vitro study found that melanin increased the sun's protector factor, that SPF, of gel sunscreens, as an example. Another study found that melanin functions as a free radical scavenger, which can also help keep your skin looking younger for longer. Sounds good to me, right? And then the last thing is brain function enhancement. All this oxidative stress is a major contributor to mild memory problems associated with aging, dementia, memory loss, Alzheimer's, all this stuff. A team of researchers investigated if chaga had any protective effects in these subjects, again, with the chemically induced cognitive decline. So think about what I just said there. Chemically induced cognitive decline. We know chemicals are basically messing up our brains. And the older we are, the more time we've had to bioaccumulate these toxins. So these researchers found that in chaga, those subjects given chaga for 7 days has significantly improved learning and memory compared to those that did not receive the fungus. And it's just that simple. Okay, that's just one mushroom that's not a mushroom. the one that's a mushroom, it's not a mushroom, the fungus. And there's 5 more, right? There's 5 more. So, I mean, I don't know if we need to go into that detail on like lion's mane, or is there any that you wanted me to talk about?
Yeah, before we get to that, I looked up the ORAC and it's incredibly high. It's pretty ridiculous. Actually, it's kind of hard.
I think it was like 52,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what it says, but it depends on what they're measuring it against. Like, is it 1 gram, 100 grams? So usually they measure it in 100 grams, so 52,000 per 100 grams, which is incredibly, incredibly high. Dr. Joel Wallach, who's one of my mentors, when he treats someone who has a neurodegenerative disease, like Parkinson's, ALS, that kind of thing, or MS, he treats them all the same because he sees it's neurodegeneration. And he says it is oxidative stress on the nervous system. He wants to fill them up with the good nutrients so the body can heal the nervous system, stop putting fuel on the fire in the diet and in maybe bad supplements, like you said. There's certain components even in supplements that can eat away at the myelin sheath. And then what he says is so important is eating or getting in you 100,000 ORAC a day. So anyone who has a neurodegenerative disease or any kind of oxidative stress disease, he puts them on 100,000 ORAC a day. And so just the fact that chaga is that high is incredibly impressive. Also, I just happened to find this. Chaga has 50 times more SOD, the superoxide dismutase, than any other medicinal mushroom. And I've had guests come on and talk about SOD and how it's like the key to life, that we, if we don't have it, we're not functioning. We need it. There's so many benefits to making sure that we have increased SOD in our body. So yeah, the list.
Well,
just
think
goes
about
on
what you
and
just
on.
said. It was like, again, 50 times more superoxide dismutase.
Right. Yeah.
Not 50%. It's 50 times.
50 times.
This is like why I get so excited about sprouts. I mean, sprouts are like 10 to 30 times more nutrient dense than a fresh picked vegetable out of your garden. The best ones, you know, like mustard greens or kale greens. I mean, 10 to 30 times more nutritious. So when you get multiples like this is like huge stuff. And it's just smart because you can take very little amount, especially in the delivery system that we have for this, and get like super massive results. And then whatever the body doesn't need, it just gets rid of it.
What's your favorite thing about lion's mane? Because like you said, we don't need to go into each one at that level that, I mean, chaga deserves. Chaga is like this amazing, it's so medicinal. It deserves everything, all the time we put into it. But we can talk about just the highlights.
Well, lion's mane is like another Hercules. I mean, all of these are, right? So it's really known as the mind mushroom. And it's been used, again, thousands of years to support healthy brain functioning and neuroregeneration of nerve tissues. So, you know, this is, you just mentioned earlier about like, you know, people with Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's and that kind of stuff. So it's really good for memory support, right? It has the ability to help reduce brain fog and improve memory through two essential compounds known as, it's hyrosinones and arenosines. And those compounds directly act in your hippocampus, and as a result, they can regenerate the neural links and build new neurons. So lion's mane mushrooms also have the ability to decrease inflammation, which is associated with conditions that known to cause brain fog. So it's also an anti-inflammatory. So what I like about lion's mane is it's really good for the brain. It supports stress relief, which I know everybody's like stressed out like crazy. Repairs nerve damage. It reduces anxiety and depression symptoms, which is huge. And I know like so many people have depression today. It's like a lot. I think I looked it up. It was like 30 million people or something like that. It's a lot. I mean, that's just, or 60 million. And these are the ones that are just saying, yeah, I'm depressed. How many people are walking around just not telling anybody?
Or not even knowing that this is what depression is. Because like I didn't know I was having PTSD attacks. I just did. People could just be like low grade depression and they think this is just what life is. And I have you ever had that where you have a client and you get them to eat healthy and all of a sudden like one week into it, they're like, wait a second, this is how I'm supposed to feel all the time. I feel amazing. I can't believe I thought health was before I got on these, before I changed my ways in this last week. I thought I was healthy, but now this whole new level I didn't even know existed. It's like you don't know you're supposed to have 3 arms and it's missing. You don't even know it's missing, right? So you just get to that new level. So people are walking around depressed, not even knowing they have depression, not even knowing there's this whole way that they could be, this whole elevated way that mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically they could be in this better health, and they don't even know that exists.
I keep like surprising myself every year. I finally realized I keep thinking I reached a new level and I couldn't get any better. But every year, through all my research and the people that I'm associated with now and the new people coming into my life, I usually find 1 or 2 really badass things that I add into my life that takes my health up another level or 2 or 3, right?
Nice.
So I guess one thing I would say about lion's mane that might be important, especially if we have any menopausal women that are listening, is that there was a study done showed that lion's mane mushrooms can aid with depression and anxiety caused by all of that, right? So that could be something too. So the women that were given the mushroom were less irritated and anxious in that study, and they had less difficulty concentrating than those in the placebo group. So that's just something about lion's mane.
What did you notice when you started taking your mushroom tincture? What did you like? I had a tremendous experience, and sometimes people take mushrooms and they don't notice this immediate result right away, but it's some like after 7 weeks or 9 weeks of taking it, they're like, oh yeah, my skin is amazing, or oh yeah, I have mentally, like, I do mentally feel better. Like sometimes it takes a while for the mushrooms to heal the brain and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
what changes did you notice? And you're the cleanest eating person I know. You have you're the gold standard. So you were already incredibly healthy. You didn't have like this massive inflammation to overcome or anything. But what changes did you notice in yourself?
Well, right out of the gate, my mind clarity improved, way more clearer. And I have to say the same thing. This is one of the things we get from a lot of people. They say they feel a wave of calmness over them, and that's what I felt. I'm like, I could relate to that. Even though I'm working more and more and more on my spiritual practice all the time. Being able to meditate and breath work and stay in the eye of the storm, no matter what's going on around me, and looking at everything in life as something that's serving me and giving me contrast, and just the different way I'm looking at life now. It just helps me I feel less stressed. It's just like it's not there. And even though nothing's really changed, in fact, I've got more stuff going on right now. I don't know if I even told you, but I'm writing a book. I'm finally to the point. People have been, you should write a book. You should write a book. You should write a book. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to write a book. Like, what am I going to talk about? And then now it's like, oh, I know what I want to tell people.
Yeah.
I want to share this with people. And I'm going to put it in a freaking book. So it's there for folks. So I'm about halfway through writing it. And you'd think with stuff like that and ebooks and all this stuff and the growth in our company, it'd be more stressed, but I actually feel less stressed.
Nice.
So
well, you're on your path.
Yeah, and I just feel good because I know I'm building my immunity with another source from nature, which is mushrooms. And I'm doing it in a very, specific way. And I'm doing it in a very intelligent way. I'm delivering it through the mouth, directly into the cell. And, I like that. And it's simple. I just shake it, squirt it, swish it, wait, done. It's just like so easy to do it. So for my busy lifestyle, it fits in very well.
Love it. What are the highlights of the cordyceps mushroom that you want to make sure we know about?
Okay, cordyceps. Well, it's been used in Asian medicine for centuries. So once again, Chinese herbology and stuff like that have been using it for a long time. It's really good for energy and performance. So people that want to have more energy, or athletes that want to, improve themselves. So cordyceps contain cordycepin, which is an active compound known for its ability to improve oxygen absorption, which is what? It's our number one nutrient. Remember that? 20,000 breaths a day. And to support the production of ATP, which provides energy within the cells. So cordyceps support increased energy levels, and they improve athletic performance. And one study on cordyceps indicated that there is close to a 50% increase in cellular energy levels after supplementing with cordycepin, which is contained in cordyceps. In fact, in the 1993 Olympics, many Chinese runners shattered world records after supplementing with cordyceps. So, there you go. It's also good for heart health. It has anti-malignancy properties. So, if anybody, dealing with that, cancer type thing, I'd be taking some cordyceps, no question, as one more layer or one more card in my deck of health that I'd be stacking up. It supports the immune system. It supports a healthy liver and kidneys as well. So lots of good stuff about cordyceps.
Now you have reishi mushroom, which is one of my favorite medicinal mushrooms. I remember back in my 20s, I would drink the reishi mushroom coffee. That was kind of really popular back then. My friend turned me on to it, and I noticed that. And they also had like a reishi mushroom dark hot chocolate kind of healthy drink.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I really, that was my favorite out of all of them. But I noticed that I would feel this buzz, and I don't know, maybe it was from like the chocolate, who knows? But I became very interested in learning more and more about reishi and discovering that how they've been using it for a very long time in Asia, and very long time, and it's supposed to be really good for the immune system. But beyond the immune system, what else is reishi good for?
Yeah, so the reishi mushroom, this also known as Gandoderma lucidum, this is like a very popular, famous mushroom. I mean, they put in reishi in everything nowadays, and people are buying it because of the marketing behind it. So That's good. It's bringing some awareness there. So it's, again, a traditional Asian mushroom. It's been known as an elixir for a long life, has lots of health benefits. One of them is it reduces stress. So for me, that's one of the big three, which is reducing stress and giving people tools for that. Breath work, meditation, getting outside, getting your feet naked, touching the ground, grounding, earthing, sleeping on earthing and grounding mats, going to the beach, getting in the forest. These are things to reduce and calm the nervous system so that you're going to live a healthier life and your body's going to communicate better and you're going to stop blowing out your adrenal glands and producing all this cortisol that's killing you, right? So stress reduction, so huge. Reishi, very powerful for that. Number 2, it supports immune function, which again, that's what you want to do. You want to build your body's defenses up, build up those walls. So when those pathogens that are always out there, keep them in balance, the viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, mutagens, all this stuff. And you just, it just keep them, keep them down, right? So you have your immune system up. It protects you from that kind of stuff. Again, it has anti-malignancy properties, just like some of the other mushrooms. It's got inflammation reduction, and maybe this is it. Maybe, I don't know, but it helps support sleep and reduces insomnia. So reishi can provide a calming effect, which supports your healthy sleep pattern. So maybe it's the reishi in there. Maybe. I don't know, or a combination but it could be the delivery system that's delivering such high amounts to your cells that you're finally getting enough to help you.
Right. Well, that's what I feel, is that because I'm absorbing it into my lymph system through my mouth, it's getting right into my body, bypassing the digestive process, right? So I'm getting the supercharged powerhouse of this mushroom elixir straight into me. And then we talked about this before, that let's say your bottle was 1 milligram of vitamin C, right? We can all understand vitamin C, but if you took a pill that was 1 milligram of vitamin C, you would only be getting 30% of that actually into your body, because it has to go through the process of digestion and absorption. Whereas if it's in this tincture, because it's broken down into such a small particle, absorbs through your mouth, through the tissue in your mouth into your body, you're getting all of it, or close to all of it. And so even though it's such a small, like for me, that's why when I started out taking, I'm like, I'm just going to do 2 droppers full, because I'm thinking to myself, I need more for it to work. But really, you're getting all of it, right? So I just love that. And it really does it really does have that calming effect on my brain and my nervous system, to the point where, like I said, I slept through the night and the level of stress that I had diminished, went down, that ambient stress. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, who I've had on the show, and I love his work. I've been really inspired by his books and his work. He talks about eating a nutritarian diet, specifically designed to look for foods that are medicinal and science-based in a way that will prevent cancer, for example, right? Can't prevent all disease, but let's prevent cancer, right? My mom died of cancer. Let's prevent it. And he says every day, get like a cup. I think he says about a cup of mushrooms, a cup of onions. Start every stir fry, and I do water saute, basically, no oil, and it tastes delicious. Any kind of mushroom. He's like, even just the cheaper, obviously organic, because I had a naturopathic friend of mine go, I just went to a mushroom farm, and you don't want to know what they use on the non-organic mushrooms. You just don't even want to go there. So with organic mushrooms, he said even the cheapest organic mushrooms, which are the white little white ones, button ones. He goes, those ones actually have more medicinal property than those crimini mushrooms, or the more expensive looking ones at the store. Chop it up, saute it with onion. The two combined will stop if there's ever a tumor that's just like kind of taking root in your body, tiny tumor, right? Taking root. Because we have cancer every day in our body's clearing it out, or our immune system's clearing it out. But if we have a bit of it taking root, it needs new vasculature, and it will send a signal to your body to start sending it new blood vessels. And mushrooms, and he says there's all kinds of reasons why you want to eat a bit of onion too, but mushrooms tell the body to not make new vasculature. And so it won't send these little highways of nutrients to the tumor. So the tumors can't start growing at a rapid rate because they can't get the vasculature. They can't trick the body into giving them new blood vessels because mushrooms, there's some component in mushrooms that stop that process.
Yeah,
That
let me share
is-
something. I want to share something that's really important. By taking this formula that we've put together, I'm not saying don't eat mushrooms. I think you should still eat mushrooms for sure and enjoy them and get the benefits just like you normally would through the digestive process. This is just to make sure you're getting everything you need, right? But it's very important. You should not consume raw mushrooms. No, do not do that. Raw mushrooms are pretty much indigestible because their cell walls are very tough. They're composed of chitin. So it's very important to cook the cell walls, the mushrooms, so they can actually, the heating will, and this is weird, but they'll actually release the nutrients they contain, all the proteins, the B vitamins, the minerals, the wide range of compounds we just talked about, okay? Now, you mentioned something else that Dr. Joel Fuhrman said to eat, which was onions. Onions, on the other hand, you do not want to cook them, okay?
Oh, interesting.
Do not want to cook them because this goes back to, back in, what was it? 1991, I believe. Do you remember when there was the big push when the researchers at Johns Hopkins, the cancer researchers, the top researcher had been researching cancer for 50 years, came out and said that sulforaphane, the main ingredient in broccoli, was the biggest discovery ever in the history of cancer.
Right.
They actually, those researchers named it phytochemo or plant chemo because it was just destroying cancer cells in the petri dishes. They never seen anything like it. And because of that blip got out on national news, and like George Bush Sr. was president at the time, he said, I don't like broccoli. And somebody dumped like 600 pounds of broccoli or 200 pounds of broccoli on the White House steps. It made national news. And because of that little blip, just goes to show how powerful the media is. It could be used for good, but it's not in most cases. The broccoli seeds have doubled in price since then. They've never went down because of the awareness of broccoli, right? Now, they were just using broccoli. They weren't using broccoli sprouts, which are 30 to 50 times more anti-cancer than the broccoli because the sulforaphane count was higher. But guess what else is very high and even higher than broccoli? Garlic and onions.
Whoa.
Garlic and onions have tremendous amounts of sulforaphane in them. So when you cook an onion, if you cook it, you're killing the anti-cancer compound. But in mushrooms, you need to cook it. So I just want to be clear on that for people because they might be like eating raw mushrooms and cooking their onions, and you don't want to do that. It should be vice versa.
Thank you. Now I'm gonna have to figure out how to enjoy raw onions. Okay.
Well,
can do
maybe you
this.
just cook a little bit of them and throw the raw ones in there too. You got the,
Yeah.
baby steps.
Right. Yeah, I can chop it up and put it on as a garnish or something. I'm always playing in the kitchen. I never stopped eating mushrooms. I eat them every day. Every day I eat mushrooms. And then I started taking your tincture and I had that result. So I know that like mushrooms for me, I eat it because I know it's healthy, but mushrooms I cook in the kitchen didn't have the effects on my brain that your tincture does. So there's something, maybe like you said, maybe it was the reishi that did it for me. You've also have shiitake, which I actually cook shiitake mushrooms daily. Love them. What's medicinal about shiitake? I just like it because of the flavor.
Again, it's another medicine that's been used in like Asian cultures for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's got a really impressive nutrient profile. It's rich in choline, copper, potassium, vitamin D, zinc. They also boast all 8 essential amino acids found in meats. So I know you have a lot of plant-based eaters listening, so that's cool. It's got a bunch of just good stuff in it. I mean, shiitake mushrooms are big for supporting immune function. They're high in antioxidants. They're anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. They have antiviral properties that support a healthy immune response. Just trying to think. For example, there's a substance called lentinan. It's an active compound found in shiitakes that protects against a variety of bacterial, viral, and parasitic infections, which is pretty cool. Let's see what else. There's a study. There was a 4-week trial involving 52 healthy volunteers between the ages of 21 and 41, and they found that by consuming dried shiitake mushrooms daily, it improved their gut immunity. Specifically, blood samples found that the mushrooms increased the production of two important types of T cells, which is our natural like killer cells that go out there and just like and attack stuff. So we're talking about massive immune system boosting here, right? Shiitakes also promote heart health. Shiitake mushrooms have also been found to reduce triglyceride levels by as much as 55%. So that's good for the heart. I'm trying to think of, let's see. Oh, how about bone health? So many people today are dealing with osteoporosis, osteopenia, weak bones. Number one thing to help you with that is weight resistance exercise. Number two is get off of dairy. And then number three would be, eat things that are going to support healthy bones, like Arjuna tree bark, products made from that, or, shiitake mushrooms. It can support healthy bones. There's a lot of vitamin D present in mushrooms, so it's good for bone strengthening. It aids in the absorption of calcium, and it actually inhibits bones from, getting weak. Let's see what else. It also supports healthy gums, which is really good. British researchers have reported that the antibacterial compounds in shiitake extract reduce harmful bacteria that causes gingivitis. So it helps you get your oral microbiome back in balance.
And you're holding it in your mouth for like a minute, so that's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was actually another study that appeared in the Journal of Pharmacology. I can't even pronounce it. It was a review. They found the same compounds inhibit plaque-building bacteria that can lead to cavities as well. So it's good for your teeth, good for your gums, and supports weight management. So this is why a lot of like different companies are taking and putting shiitake in, their protein shakes or their weight loss things, because there's an active component in there that helps support healthy weight. And studies have found that subjects fed a diet high in shiitake mushrooms had 35% less weight gain than those eating a diet low in the fungus.
Love it. And it's just super delicious. You know what? Your tincture, I just realized, because shiitake is a very strong flavor, and people either love it or hate it. It's a very strong flavor, but your tincture does not taste like mushrooms. To me, it tastes like chocolate. It doesn't have a bad flavor. It has an enjoyable flavor.
We've actually improved it. What you've got now is the first run. I'm always trying to improve stuff. Just wait. Like, just keep enjoying the benefits and stuff, but eventually you'll call me and say, dude, I got one of the new ones. Because when the new ones come out, eventually, we haven't even ordered them yet, but when we get to that point, we'll reorder. It's going to taste like chocolate. You're going to be blown away.
It already tastes good to me. So, anything.
Yeah, well, it's going to the next level, baby. It's going to be awesome.
Nice. I've given some drops to our son just to see what he thought of the flavor, and he liked it. And he's picky, so
good.
That's picky child likes it. Mikey likes it. Everyone's gonna like it. The last one is maitake mushroom. I admit I know nothing about this mushroom.
It's just another traditional medicinal shroom. It's been used in foods for thousands of years. Anti-malignancy support, antiviral support, blood pressure balancing, energy support, supports cholesterol regulation, blood sugar balancing, supports healthy immunity. A lot of the same stuff that the other one did. Maitake mushrooms are perfect combination for health and even taste. So people love eating these. You should get when they're delicious. And when you dive deep into their health properties, you're going to find out that they contain lots of potassium, calcium, magnesium, amino acids, fibers, vitamins like B2, D, and many more. So there's just a lot of nutrition in a maitake mushroom, and it helps boost immune system.
And then, of course, the last ingredient was the fulvic and humic acid, and that's trace minerals, right? Trace minerals and elements. But because it's broken down, like all the mushrooms, it's broken down, it's highly absorbed into the body. One of the naturopaths I learned from in the past used to be a formulator, and he said trace minerals make everything work better. And he said, it's really interesting that the pharmaceutical companies do not add small amounts of trace minerals into their their drugs because it would actually increase the effectiveness of the drugs. That,
Yeah. Well,
so it helps the body regulate everything and get everything working. But to add that is like just making it so that everything's running better.
yeah, we actually experienced this years ago when we came out with our ultra enzyme formula. So that was the one thing that I took away from the Hippocrates Health Institute was like taking your enzymes, right? And I know a lot of people like me that are like super, super geeks on this stuff. And a lot of them have been at it a lot longer than me, 30, 40, 50 years into this process. And they're also, enzyme aficionados, right? They know their enzymes. And when they've tried out my enzymes, they're like, dude, these things are amazing. What in the heck? And I noticed that your amounts were very high compared to the other ones. So I spared no expense. Our digestive enzyme formula is like packed. But what we did was, because of Dr. Treadway, we added something similar to this to the formula, which was a mineral complex. And I've had these guys reach out to me and like, dude, I don't know what you're doing to these enzymes, but there's nothing like them. And these people they know what it does in the body and they know how they feel. And I got a guy up in Canada that buys them by the case. He just buys them by the case for him and this other dude. And they consume them like crazy. Right. So anyway, these natural sources of fulvic and humic acids from this mineral pitch, this is like a plant-based natural gum. So it's found in like super ancient mountainous granite formations. So picture this. For millions and millions and billions of years, plants, the roots and the bark and the stems and the trunk and the limbs and the leaves and the flowers and everything, it dies and it goes into soil and it goes down, but it slips down through the cracks. And as the tectonic plates move and mountains move, you don't see it, but over millions of years, these plant-based materials have worked their way down into the granite, and the granite's been down there. It heats up in the summer, and then it gets cold in the winter, but it keeps moving, and that movement is like it's like been stirring it in these cracks of granite. And on hot summer days, this stuff will ooze out the side of this granite formations, and this stuff could be in there millions of years. So what we do, well, not me, but what people do is they'll go scrape that stuff off, and then our lab or the source that we get it from will then clean it, which is very important because it needs to be cleaned because there could also be heavy metals in it. This is very important when people are consuming fulvics and humics, they're getting a clean source. So I don't want heavy metals. I'm trying to educate everybody about them and get them out because of all the 5G and all the stuff going on because we turn into radiation zappers when we have all that stuff in us. So we want to get that heavy metals out. So what you basically have is every element in the elemental chart in this formula.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting everything. It's all there.
Love it. And before people go, oh, that sounds like tinfoil hat, what Tim just said, Dr. Klinghardt, he takes children who are nonverbal, who are displaying symptoms of autism. Let's say they've been told they have autism, but let's pretend they don't, and it was a misdiagnosis because they're beating their heads against the wall. They're nonverbal children. They look, if you didn't know what autism was and you looked at these kids, you'd say they have fire ants crawling in their head, that they look like they're in pain. And Dr. Klinghardt will take them and put them on as natural as possible chelation for heavy metals. So he'll get them drinking these green drinks like with herbs to help the body. Maybe he'll get them on homeopathy to help with the chelation. In really, really, really rough cases, he'll have to use a pharmaceutical chelator, but most of the time he does it naturally. And I talk about that. You can listen to the interview with Dr. Klinghardt where he goes through his process of how he does heavy metal detox. But he gets these kids who are beating their heads against the wall, nonverbal, not able to, they don't show affection, they don't show love, they don't make eye contact. And he gets them where they are communicating. They're essentially look like different children. They're hugging their parents. They're saying, I love you. They're playing. They're making eye contact. They're no longer in pain. He says, because he's been doing this for over 40 years, he goes, I have children who came to me like this, and now they're PhDs. One of them is a famous composer. Like he says, this was heavy metal toxicity in the brain.
Totally.
And the first thing he does is he says, get your children away from electromagnetic radiation and turn off the Wi-Fi. And he explains that Wi-Fi resonates at a certain hertz that vibrates the heavy metals in these children's brains, basically making their brain feel as if it's in a microwave cooking. So the parents have to take their kid and move somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi and do not have, everything has to be, if you're going to have a computer and internet, you just have to hardwire it. And it's if they just, their entire nervous system calms down from that.
Well, let's be clear on this. A microwave is 2.4 gigahertz. If you have a smart meter installed outside your home and your neighbors do too, that's 2.4 gigahertz. It's the same as a microwave. So you literally are cooking your brain regardless. And if there's heavy metals in there, it's exponentially worse.
Right.
It's really good.
Right.
So fulvics and humics are very important.
Right. As crazy as this sounds, were these doctors who like Dr. Klinghardt and also like Tim, who's been, doing this and uncovering this. Tim, you've got a great podcast. You definitely want to make sure we plug it, and we're going to have the link to it in the show notes of the podcast here. But the doctors who are uncovering it are getting results because they get the heavy metals out. They get the kids away from the Wi-Fi, the smart meters, the EMFs, and they get better. So I'm all about the results, right? So I know it sounds crazy. It sounds just nutty. Oh, 5G, that's something a conspiracy theorist will say. Well, how about you take these children who are incredibly sick, get them away from these frequencies and watch what happens.
Well, 5G is right below military grade weaponry as far as the frequency goes. Mm-hmm. You just go look it up, right? And I had some clients on. I had Dan and Ashley Claxton on my show. It was like episode, I think it was in the 80s or something. And he's a canine policeman. His wife is a hairdresser. And they had a son, raised him up normal and everything. Got the next son, boom, got a new kid. And then, they have to say it, but the son got jabbed. And then all of a sudden he lost eye contact and became autistic. And after 3.5 years of hell, as they put it, people can go listen to the episode. They finally decided to take the reins and figure it out because it was creating a tremendous amount of stress on the older child because this kid would like bang his head on concrete and just go nuts. And up to that point, he was totally normal. And they said, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just live with it. And so 3.5 years of hell. So finally, this guy listens to a lot of podcasts, right? So he learned that it could help to get his son off of dairy. So they got him off of dairy products. And that helped a little bit. Then they learned that you could want to get him a good probiotic. So they did that, and that helped a little bit. And then they found out that you could put him on a good quality high CBD. And they did that, and that helped a little bit. And then he was listening to a podcast, and he said that it's the heavy metals, right, that are in the environment and in the jabs that can cause this. It's just over, what you just said, too much heavy metals that go in the brain. So he's like, he was already a client of mine. He was already taking our toxin detox product, which is, so he's like, he started doing all this research, and he found all these different ingredients that help pull heavy metals out of the body. All of them were in our product. So he was already taking it. So he's like, well, he did this on his own, didn't contact us or nothing. And instead of giving him 3 capsules, which is normal dose for an adult, he gave his son 1. And his son, within 30 days, he'd only spoke 2 words up to this point. Within 30 days, his son started talking again. And 6 months later, they said they had their son completely back. So what they did was they stacked. And I was like, whoa, because everything he was rattling off is like protocols we've learned for autism. Get him off of dairy. Oh, get him off of wheat too. One of them was get off of wheat. Obviously, wheat and dairy is just like for everybody. Just get off that crap. Get off of wheat, get off of dairy, high quality CBD, good bacteria, start working on the probiotics and that kind of stuff. And then start chelating, the foot spas like with Kellyanne, toxin detox, eating cilantro, all the things you can do to get heavy metals out of the body and then stop putting them in. And people are getting results. It was such I just like, hey, Dan, would you and Ashley like to come on and do the show with me? And I'm like, I've tried many times to have parents that we've worked with that have helped with autism, but nobody wants to do it. And because they're scared. He's like, yeah, we'll do it. So they came on and they told their story. And it was, so this isn't like woo-woo stuff. I mean, we actually have real life examples of people recorded on tape that have actually, they're just working class people like Ashley and me that have, figured out what we're figuring out and and what you're figuring out. And then they just went and applied it and tried it and see if it worked for them. And a lot of them are getting good results. So that's like
Yeah.
what we're about. We're just about like, hey, it's like, I know it's like it might sound really simple, but it's kind of working. Why does everything have to be so damn complicated? And you don't have to
Right.
get into the level of like, beta glucans and knowing all this crap if you don't want to. You can just like, okay, that sounds good. I'll try it out, and if it works for you, keep doing it. And then maybe add something else in and just kind of keep gleaning information off from shows like this. And if something resonates with you, the most important thing to do is just go take action and see if it works. And then you'll have your own first person experience. Then it won't matter what I say or what some doctor says or what Ashley says. You're going to know in your heart and your soul, hey, this works for me. I'm going to keep doing this. Or it didn't work for me. I won't do that, and I'll try something else. Having a can-do attitude is very important instead of always like, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and this happens. It's like, no, we're going to figure it out. I'm making my health a priority. I'm tired of waking up and not feeling good. Whatever. I want better relationships. I want more finance. I want better health. You can have all of that. You just have to put yourself as a priority and start loving yourself, and all that stuff can fall into place for you.
Yeah, I love that. Be willing to turn over every stone. Be willing to try new things. Be willing to try it. Give it an honest try. There was this mom, amazing video where she's some like PhD or doctor or something, and her daughter was nonverbal, and she started with, like you said, oh, probiotics, good. Start with probiotics, no dairy, no gluten, that kind of thing. And she was doing all this stuff. And then she came across some research, and her daughter was still having issues. She went from no eyesight and just no communication at all to being able to communicate, but she'd have these tantrums that would like be 2 hours long. Like, again, the brain on fire.
Right.
And then she came across some research about, monosodium glutamate, right? Like MSG is hidden in food. It's you've got to know there's like dozens of different ways they say it. Like they'll say natural flavoring, and that actually means MSG. Well, what she found out was that the glutamate in some people gets built up, kind of like heavy metals in some people gets built up, whereas other people, maybe because of MTHFR, maybe because of how their liver either works or isn't working great. Some people can clear heavy metals based on just the regular everyday stressors of it being in your food, it being in the air and the water. And some people can't. And so it builds up in their body. Well, glutamate is another one of those things where if you eat lots of grains, especially gluten grains, you can get high levels of glutamate. If you eat lots of processed food, there's hidden MSG in all these foods. So she went on this, Sherlock Holmes for food, and found all the different sources of glutamate, and gave her daughter, who was a very, typically these children are also incredibly picky, so she had to dial that in. But she was able to get glutamate incredibly low in her daughter's diet. And now her daughter is just like any other kid, just laughing and communicating and looking in everyone's eye and just happy and like, living a normal life, not in pain. Not in that agony and that discomfort and the constant turmoil, the inner turmoil that you could see she was going through. And so the Franken foods that are out there, disguised as regular food, right? Processed food, it's hijacking our nervous system. And we have to be aware of that. So we talked about that, just getting back to eating down on the food chain, right? Like eat the nuts and seeds, the grains, the gluten-free grains, like the grains that are, naturally. So don't eat barley, wheat, rye. And in some cases, oats, because oats contain gliadin, which is very similar. Make sure you buy organic. Look into eating as much plants as possible, but learn from Tim. Know when to cook them, when to eat them raw. I didn't know that about raw onions, and I'm excited to add some raw onions to my diet to get those benefits. So
and just make sure Duffy eats them too. Otherwise, you might have a hard time getting kisses.
Oh, I don't have a hard time. I could eat like raw garlic.
Onion breath.
Yeah, I could eat raw garlic. He'd still come after me. I love that man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's something else. I'm blessed. I'm blessed in many ways, and I want to pass this blessing on to the listeners by sharing this information and continuing to get this information out there. So we're going to keep uncovering with every interview, especially with Tim, but with every interview we do, we're uncovering these steps that we can take away today to gain better health. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing just your wealth of knowledge. We're definitely going to have you back. I want to kind of uncover each and every product that you've made, because you've made it with such intentionality. There's so much behind it. There's so much science behind it. There's so much there's a need that it's filling, and I want to be able to go through and learn from you and learn about each product. So I can't wait to have you back. But thank you for sharing about the mushroom tincture that's made such a big difference in my life and in my husband's life. Like, he's never dreamed in color and remembered them. Like, it's just, he's having
That's cool.
like this whole world is he's in his 50s and he's now for the first time ever just experiencing what dreams are like. That's just amazing. I love dreaming. I love waking up and being like, wow, I was just thinking like, Alice in Wonderland for the last 8 hours or whatever. Like, I love dreaming, and he never had that until your tincture. It's just so cool. Listeners can go to learntoyourhealth.com/mushrooms and check it out. Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you plug your podcast? Make sure that listeners check it out.
Well, I just want to say this has been really a new experience for me, because normally when people have me on, they want me to tell my story or go over a specific topic. And I usually don't really get into the products that deep at all, because number one, everybody's trying to sell everybody something, and I don't want to come across as some salesperson. But it was really fun to be able to actually do a deep dive and like completely, geek out or share everything I've been geeking out on. It's like, this is why I built this product, and this is what we found out, and these are all these side benefits that are happening for people. And it's like, and just like giving a really deep dive on one product. I've never got to do this before. So I just want to thank you. So maybe it's more understandable for people, just the level of why this stuff works so good and why we have a double your money back guarantee, because I already know based on system science that I've got a 98% chance it's going to work really well, right? So my podcast is called The Health Hero Show. It's on all the major platforms. I don't have as many episodes as Ashley, but we're about 130 out the door so far at this point in time. Who knows when people are going to be listening to this, but I have a lot of fun with it. I do solo episodes, and I also have guests on, like Ashley and other cool people that are getting results in their life or helping, maybe they got a really cool product or a system they put together, and just trying to share things that I've incorporated in my life that have benefited me or benefited others. And, it's just a similar mission to what you've got going on, Ashley. And it's just, I just appreciate you letting me get this information out to more people.
Absolutely. And I love telling your story. Whenever especially when I come across, like I'll be talking to one of the husbands of my friends, and I'm like, oh, you need to listen to, if there's one interview you're ever going to listen to, it's episode 442 with Tim James. And it's just because, you started off as that typical American cowboy, kind of just meat and potatoes. And then you went on this journey, and the amount of mom friends I have, they're like, oh, I wish my husband would get on board, or I wish my husband would choose to eat healthy, or I just wish he would, he has these health issues, but he says he's fine. I'm like, oh, just one episode, just one, just get the stubborn man to listen to episode 442. Cause even just 30 minutes of listening, 30 minutes in, they'll be hooked to listening to Tim's story. They'll be hooked. So listeners definitely want to go back and check that out. Of course, the links to everything we talked about today is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntoyourhealth.com. Tim, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up today's interview?
Oh, it's same stuff I always say, which is, put yourself first and lead by example, and be your own doctor and learn how to heal and wake up and feel good. It's your birthright. And, creation doesn't make mistakes. And so if you're here, unless you think you're going to doubt creation, then you have a purpose. Otherwise, you wouldn't be part of all that is, right? So you're here. So even if you might be in a down state or you're not feeling good with your health or whatever, and maybe you came here to try to glean some stuff to feel better, just understand that you have a purpose, and we need you to be fully activated and doing whatever that is. Whatever brings you the most joy and excitement, you should be doing that. And the more that we do that, the more synchronicities that will start happening in your life and in my life and in Ashley's life as more and more people raise their consciousness and do what brings them the most excitement. So thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the listeners for taking time to listen to this show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim. I can't wait to have you back on. I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Tim James. Isn't he amazing? If you haven't already, go back to episode 442 and check out his story. He tells such a good story of his life and his health transformation, and he was seriously one of those guys, and you know those guys. Maybe you used to be one of those guys, but he was one of those guys who like would not eat a vegetable, right? Would not even look at a vegetable. They thought salsa on their chips out of a jar was a vegetable, right? He was one of those guys, and now he's a raw and living foods, like sprouted foods, vegan chef and supplement formulator and health coach, and just all the different things that he does to help people to get on the other side of major health issues. I absolutely love his mission. It's so on par with me, and I resonate so much with everything he does. I just think it's so funny that the two of us, I feel like we're just twins. It's so great. So if you love my show, I know you'll definitely love listening to his show, and you should absolutely go check it out. Of course, the links to everything are going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. But if you're driving and you just want to remember the link really quick, go to learntruehealth.com/mushrooms or mushroom. Go to learntruehealth.com/mushroom, and it's going to take you straight to check out the multi-shroom tincture, which we talked about for the last 2+ hours. This very medicinal tincture, not psychedelic, although the name shroom is in it. So some people think that's what it is, but no, it's not psychedelic, but it does have fantastic health benefits that are noticeable. So that's learntruehealth.com/mushroom. And if you want to check out Tim's drink that I love drinking, and my husband and I, we drink it all the time. It is called Green 85. It has 85 superfoods in there, and it's like fresh squeezed juice practically. My body just buzzes when I drink it. If you want to try that, it's great as I wouldn't say meal replacement, but if you just need to take the edge off, like you're hungry, but you're super busy and you don't want to do something, bad for you, you want to do something good for you, drink it. Just I do 2 scoops in a 32-ounce mason jar. I have a special lid. I can link it if you want. I'll link it in the Facebook group. Actually, I should link it in the Facebook group. I love drinking out of glass instead of plastic or metal, and so we've gotten into the habit a few years ago of drinking out of mason jars. And it's funny, once in a while I'll bump into someone else that drinks out of mason jars. We'll be out in public. I'll be carrying my mason jar, and someone else will be carrying their mason jar, and we cheers each other. Hey, mason jar drinkers! But yeah, we just put 2 scoops in a big mason jar and sip on it for an hour or so, and it gets us through our day. Today, I didn't even eat breakfast. I just got super busy. I just drank my green juice, and I think it was about 2 p.m. that I made this huge salad. I'm going to post it on Instagram. It's super delicious. Actually, I was inspired by Tim talking about raw onions, and I'm sitting here going, I really don't like eating raw onions, but I remember I've blended them before and made really good salad dressings. So I ran downstairs, I cut up half an onion, put it in the Vitamix with about a quarter of a cucumber, some Italian seasoning, and then the brine from my homemade live cultured fermented pickles. And I put that in there, just a splash in there, and then I blended it, and I put that over a bunch of greens with some avocado. It was so good. My husband and I both went back for seconds because I made this big bowl. We each ate a bowl, and then he looks at me and goes, "Do you want some more?" kind of like if there's any left, can I have the rest of it? It was that good. So then we fought over the leftovers, and that was super delicious. And that was 2 p.m. I was like, wow, I was not hungry all day. I just had a big thing of the green juice, and I got busy in my day. I drink water, I drink my green juice. So even though I don't consider it necessarily a meal replacement, it definitely just took the hunger away and gave me lots of energy. And I kept moving on with my day until I was able to prepare a healthy meal. So if that's what you're looking for, you should definitely check it out. And of course, we talk more about it in episode 442, which you can find by going to learnyourhealth.com and searching Tim James, or just like Googling his name, internet searching his name, Tim James, and the Learn Your Health podcast. And then, yeah, if you want to check out the drink, go to learnyourhealth.com/green85. That's all one word, green, and then the number 8, the number 5. And yeah, check it out. He also has a double your money back guarantee, which he briefly mentioned, and we didn't really get into it, but you should read his double your money back guarantee. I've never seen a company do this. I've never seen a company so boldly stand behind their products that they will give you your money back and then but double that, double the amount of money. So they give you all the money you paid, and then again they give you it again. They're like, here, we believe in it so much that we will give you not only the money you spent, but twice the money you spent, which blows my mind. And that also goes to show that he has a very low return rate, which for me, the proof's in the pudding, right? So people try it. And if they love it, they keep drinking it. If they don't, if a bunch of people didn't like it and asked for double their money back, he'd have been already out of business. So for me, that's a no-brainer. I love his ethics. I love the quality of his products, and that's why I love sharing it, because I believe in it. I take it myself, and I think it might help you too. So you should give it a try. learnyourhealth.com/mushroom and learnyourhealth.com/green85. Check out his 2 products. Let me know what you think. Come join the Facebook group. And Learn Your Health Facebook group. Just search Learn Your Health in Facebook, or you can go to learnyourhealth.com/group. Come join the group. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to chat. Our fantastic listeners are in there chatting with each other, chatting with me, and we're all just helping each other and getting great advice and great input, great insights. I learn things all the time from you guys, and I share my knowledge with you. And there's just a lot of love going around in that group. So come join it. Awesome. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for sharing this podcast with those you care about. This is a mission to help people to get so healthy that they no longer have to suffer. Suffering should be optional, especially when it comes to health, and we can help each other to learn true health. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Go out there and figure out how to get some raw onions into your diet and some delicious mushrooms.